Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to TRTM for tonight's coverage of Season 6, Round 5 of the NLRL Sunday League, powered by TRTN. As always, I am Regan Clark. You join us here in Leicestershire at the site of Britain's oldest continuously used racing circuit, the Donington Park Circuit. Opened in 1931, then reopened after the Second World War in 1977 by entrepreneur Tom Wheatcroft. It comprises 12 turns and 2.4, just a little under 2.5 miles of FIA Grade 2. Was part of the pre-war Grand Prix racing zeitgeist, with its reopening in the 1970s being on the ambition to once again return to Formula One. It would get its opportunity in 1993 as the European Grand Prix. It contested with Silverstone in the late 2000s to become the new home of the British Grand Prix, ultimately falling short due to the 2008 financial crisis. Outside of Grand Prix racing, it sees racing on 2 and 4 wheels, with World Superbike and British Superbikes having raced on the circuit before the turn of the millennium, 1988 and 1990 respectively, TCR UK being the latest to join in 2018, but its 2 series regulars are the British Touring Car Championship, which has ran since its reopening year in 1977, and British GT, which has ran here since 1993. Donington Park has given us what has been arguably the most exciting race of last season, so as we head in towards the midway mark of the championship, we do find ourselves met with some rather odd circumstances, as we'll explain a little later on when we get into the talks on the regulations. Reeling away from what were even more odd circumstances at our first ever visit to the Nürburgring Nordschleife, which ended under red flags. At the end of that, all things said and done, it gave Cas van Velten his first win of the season, and for Gabriel Lavuga his first rookie's win. And so, as we get a look in towards those regs today, you'll have to bear with us whilst we just quickly make a few adjustments here and there, because there has been a bit of a snafu from the race control team. I think this might have been somewhat of an oversight in the rebuild of the server after what happened in the Nürburgring. But taking a look into those regulations, we do find ourselves with a slightly altered version of the standard format. What would normally be a 20-minute sprint race and 40-minute feature race, we find the same regulations that presided over last week. Last round, I should say, like 2 weeks ago now, I'm pretty sure it was, which is a 10-minute free practice, of which you join us in the middle of at the moment, 20 minutes of qualifying coming up around the corner, and then a 90-minute race after what was expected to be a 20-minute sprint and a 40-minute feature. The pit strategy will remain the same, however, 1 mandatory pit stop for open strategy, so a minimum 3.2 second stop for fuel. Taking a look in towards the ballast for tonight's event sees Carlos Disch maintain a 20-kilo ballast after a DNF in the last round of the championship. It also sees recent rises there for Cas van Velten, of course, revelling in his first win of the season, his career 5th, as it would happen to be the case, as he now moves up closer to 11 kilos worth of additional ballast. Looking after 63 races of the NLRL Sunday League, we see there the 5th career win for Cas van Velten, his 5th, with his first coming up 3 seasons ago to the round at Season 3, Round 4. And so far this season, we've seen wins from Carlos Disch, Tyler Vermaak, Alan Alexander, and now Cas van Velten to form our 4th overall winner of Season 6. Taking a look into the championship standings, starting things off with the teams to see Euro Titans lead by just shy of 300 points over 5-Star Esports. Malwar Racing make 3rd place now, up and ahead of CRT Racing, with TSRC rounding out the top 5. Hispania Racing Nexus in 6th with ISR in 7th. Team VGN marks 8th place. Apex Online Racing Pro, courtesy of Paul Vidler and Jared Vermeulen, make 9th place. And Kafrovic rounds out the top 10 by a single point away. Looking into the rookie standings, and after his maiden victory at the Nordschleife, Gabriel Lavuga now leads by half a point over Elias de Vos. Richard Claffey makes 3rd with Paul Vidler in 4th, and Vladimir Malarex rounds out the top 5. Vinicius Goyce in 6th with Konstantinos Chitos in 7th. Ian McGowan in a joint 8th place with Jared Vermeulen, both of them holding 48 points. Joseph Reyes rounds out the top 10. Looking back in towards what has already been a muddled start to this session, we find ourselves now back on the talks of the overall Drivers' Championship standings. And after drop points aided him in the last round, Carlos Disch leads over Tyler Vermaak by 31 points. That we'll see that close in very swiftly as we get into the second half of the championship. Cas van Velten, after his first victory of Season 6, makes 3rd place ahead of Alan Alexander. Ian Skeen rounds out the top 5. George Todd finds himself in a joint 6th with this one on screen here, Fate Galaxy, after Galaxy's transfer to BMW in the last round. They both hold 95 points. That's 10 points over Richard Claffey in 8th place, with Zoltbeef Gardner 5 points behind him in 9th with 80 points, rounding out the top 10. Elias de Vos with 63 points. Following on board at the moment with Fake Galaxy, we find he's second fastest in the session. Alan Alexander is third fastest. Leading the session, though, is Ford's Patrick Leger in the number 9. Could we be on the cards to see another outright rookies victory here in Donington Park? Last season saw that of Michael Harris take victory in his battle with McLaren's Ellie Pocket. It was Lexus's first win in 3 seasons. The last driver ever to do so was Season 2 champion Jason Bush. And taking a look then further on into today's session, 2 minutes left to go in free practice, and taking a look at BOP for today, we'll see 2 British manufacturers at the head of the field in terms of weight reduction. Bentley and McLaren both lose double figures, 28 kilos on the Continental taken off, and McLaren lose 17 kilos. Swiftly behind them then, Mercedes lose 16 kilos, Ferrari lose 14, Lamborghini lose 10, and then more minute changes there for Porsche and Nissan, with only 3 kilos shed away. Audi will see nothing change from factory weight, staying exactly as they are for this round. Aston Martin gain 8 kilos, Ford gain 9, BMW find themselves in the worst possible position here with a 20 kilo additional ballast. When you consider the 20 kilos already on board for Fake Galaxy, he stands in a staggering 40 kilos over factory weight. It's going to be a tough round here for the Austrian talent, but he's looked poised for the fastest time for quite some time. And we just see it there, 1:26.752. from the number 55 of BMW's Fake Galaxy. Now fastest here in free practice with just a minute left to go before we get in towards qualifying. No doubt then a very peculiar set of circumstances to have entered into, knowing that we were anticipating a sprint and feature race here in round 5 of the championship, but we'll have to make do with a 90-minute race overall. So this is sort of inadvertently now become an enduro race in its own regard, perhaps making up then for what has been a bit of a lackluster end to our first ever visit to the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Not for nothing, it did give us some serious highlights over that round. Quite a fair few wipeouts, some notable ones there. Leon Forberg and Tyler Vermaak were 2 massive wipeouts. Same story for Carlos Diesch. Taking a look onto the wider charts, then we see the new fastest time comes from none other than 5-Star Esports' Tyler Vermaak, 7 thousandths faster than Fake Galaxy. Where BMW find themselves on the short end of the stick, McLaren find themselves on the swinging end, as they, like Bentley, find themselves among the lightest on this grid today under balance of performance. Vermaak's fastest then from Galaxy by 7 thousandths of a second. Patrick Leger makes 3rd, Alan Alexander 4th, and Cas van Veltzen, brand new coat of paint there on the number 1, marks the top 5. Brand new driver on the grid for today, Jake Handley in the number 21 ERL BMW, makes his way down through the S's. It's going to be interesting to see how he gets on here. Not the most graceful of entries for the BMWs, 20 kilos on additional ballast, and that's also considering the new driver ballast, which scales from round to round. So I believe that is right now, it was 2 kilos per round if memory last serves, and I think that would place him 30 kilos heavier, I should say, than factory weight. Across the line a moment ago, Zoltbeef Gardner to 6th, Handley to 8th at the end of this session. Nick Lamming down to the line there. I believe it was just held up by the McLaren of, was that, I want to say, yes, that is Flavio Casanella, now back onto the grid after a round ban at the Nürburgring. Across the line a moment ago then, we see for that of Brooklyn Donkin, 7th place. Reyes makes 10th. Nearest to the line, the 222, Sam Dicker with McLaren, the green and purple 720S down towards the line from 11th on the grid. Across the line and in towards qualifying we go. So as we kick off the start of the qualifying here for what has now been, I would say, side graded to an endurance race here in Donington Park, perhaps a sort of continuation round of what we had in the Nürburgring. We do find immediately first out of the gates is Fake Galaxy and Carlos Diesch. We caught on with them just yesterday gone to see their performance in the Continental Racing League, and it was a bit of a mixed bag, but at all things said and done, it was a brilliant result for the Whale Racing team. Now we see them reunited here on the Sunday League, and away from Mercedes in its entirety. 2 different German manufacturers for these two, as the 315 voluntarily disqualifies himself. Alan Alexander, even though he was looking to be one of the faster drivers on this grid, so much so that he found himself in the top 10 under qualifying predictions, will start from the back, as is tradition for the Bentley, but we saw it was a phenomenal performance from him in the last couple of rounds. Taking a look at qualifying predictions. here for tonight's round of the championship at Season 6, Round 5. Tyler Vermack looks pitched at pole position. Carlos Deesh looking at second, with Ben Cheeseman looking in third. A very solid result there coming along for the 114, of which currently still resides in the pit lane. Ian Skeen looking at fourth place, only 200ths up the road off of Patrick Leger in fifth. Zolt Beefgartner makes sixth place, with George Todd in seventh. Alan Alexander makes eighth, with Konstantinos Chitos looking at ninth. Sergio Belda rounds out the top 10 on predictions today. So as we follow on boards with the number 55 BMW, will be the first into the fray here for the flying lap. So on board with Fate Galaxy. Into the first of our flying laps here, starting things off down at Redgate here at turn 1. Long sweeping right-hander in towards Hollywood as we head down through to turn 2. This is almost a double, dare I say, even triple apex corner, depending on how close you hug the lines there. Down through the crane of curves. In towards the old hairpin. Down the run, back uphill. We follow on board now at Starkey's Bridge, you just saw there in the background as we head up to McLean's at turn 7. If you joined us yesterday, we were in Brands Hatch, another MSV circuit, and we compared the Sheen curve to this corner here, turn 8 at Coppice. Making our way down through to turn 8. Now onto the Starkey Straight here, one of 3 straightaways on this track. Starkey Straight, and then just the run out of this next complex of corners. Turns 9 and 10 at the S's gives us a bit of a extra run down towards the Melbourne hairpin. Down towards turn 11. The Melbourne hairpin almost as it would be a double apex corner. It's a very squared off hairpin, but you can see that can still be taken as one continuous right-hand turn. Taking us down towards Goddard's then, the number 55 on a absolute slingshot of a lap thus far. Great start to things for Fate Galaxy, but where does he stand among his contemporaries? As we'll see, the first 3 times in will be from Galaxy, Deesh and Vermack. 126.762, the first time across the line here in qualifying, and across the line from behind him, Tyler Vermack sets the first valid time. So we saw the time there from Galaxy, but it was an invalidated one for the 55. Cas van Veltzen makes the second time on the charts here. Jared Vermeulen now goes to the fastest time of the session. Zolt Beefgartner was momentarily in the top 3. Ian McGowan now makes his presence known. A double podium for McLaren in the start of qualifying today. We see for Nick Lamming now goes to 6th fastest. Nearest the line from behind him was, I believe, there the 387 Willow Taylor for BMW. Up in front of them, the number 93 of Richard Claffey. Multiple-time Rookies Division winner in this season so far. Gabriel Lavuga, having taken his first Rookies win, goes 6th fastest, with Joseph Reyes in 8th, Sam Dicker in 9th. Nearest to the line, the number 9, so Leger on the run to the line here. But as it would appear to be the case for the Mustang, was nothing valid on that last lap. Nearest to the line then will be that number 55 once again. Now, we have seen this before, a little bit of teasing from these two in the past, where they like to try and hold out and actually laying in those times on the chart. It looked like a very confident start to this qualifying run for Fate Galaxy, but nothing materialized after that first flying lap. We'll see, though, could second time be the charm here for the 55, and the 54 trailing in behind him. Down across the line then goes Fate Galaxy, but as would appear, no valid time set for the 54. Quite the contrary. Behind him is Tyler Vermack, goes fastest by 8 thousandths over Jared Vermeulen. At the front of the field then, Tyler Vermack back on leading form here after what was disaster for him in the Nürburgring. Vermeulen strikes back by 3/10 over in the number 14. Quite the surprising turn of events. The 2 South African talents at the front of the field squabbling for that pole position. The challenger versus the established talent on this grid. Vermeulen has got quite the comment to make here on today's grid, and we hear it loud and clear. He scratches ever closer to a high 126 even, a high 125 I should say. Don't know where the I was still thinking of 159. Don't even know where that came from. That would have been, what, GP Strecker kind of times we're talking there. Certainly not the times indicative of Donington Park. 126.017 though, the current fastest lap of the session, but there is still unaccounted for that number 55. We see across the line Cody Zarfel to 13th. John O'Driscoll 10th in the session. Jake Handley in 9th. A lot of curiosity rests on the shoulders of this one here, the 55 of Fate Galaxy, as we see him make his way back down towards the line. 6 minutes into the session so far, and no time currently set from Galaxy. Could that change? Down across the line. Yes, it can. From 14th goes 4th now for Fake Galaxy. From behind him comes Carlos Dish for Audi. Across the line there for Dish, stays where he is. From behind him, you see Cas van Velzen approaching the line. Across the line he goes. Jared Vermeulen in the background there. Can he retake pole position off of Tyler Vamaku? Now goes up by 97 thousandths. Ian McGowan now steps in the middle of both of them. McGowan adamant for a first rookies win. Sorry, not first rookies win. First overall win. He took his rookies wins in Silverstone. Already has had quite a fair deal of luck on the British circuit. So for their, looking on this calendar, second and last visit to British soil for the rest of this championship, he is going to be hoping for a confident result today, and he's already gearing up to charge at that pole position. McLaren in a 1-2 at this time. The first ever manufacturer in the history of the Sunday League to take a 1-2 was from Aston Martin in Season 2's round at Bathurst. It was Ian Skeen and Christian LeBay who took Aston Martin's one and only 1-2 finish. They became the first ever manufacturer to do so. Ford won up to them this season thereafter in Season 3 Round 1, where Ford took a 1-2-3. Became the first ever manufacturer to do so in this series. McLaren now looking to etch their names into the history books. A team that has had, or a manufacturer I should say, that has had a remarkable history in the Sunday League. We've seen from McLaren's before a sizable number of victories. Ian McGowan crawls down through Goddard. I believe this is in to the pit lane. Vermeulen now fastest. So the number 14 counters the number 8 by going 25 thousandths over his fastest time. 1:25.895. We are now looking at here with 12 minutes left to go. Behind him, Cas van Velzen. For Van Velzen, it's not been an easy road to tread upon here. His first victory coming from the red-flagged Nürburgring round, but the Dutchman has been confident in his assertion to continue to pursue a championship lead. He is defending that driver's championship title, of which he accrued in Season 5 by a hair's width off of Carlos Dish, who ended up taking the rookies title. Makes his way up then towards Coppice. Nearest to the line is the number 999, I believe that is, or the, I believe, not the 599, so it certainly is something indicative of looking there, 991, I believe. That's what it says. Yes, so that was, sorry, Ian Skeen. You see a little bit loose there off the exit of Redgate. Across the line from behind him was the 77 and the, looking there, the 87. We saw new times in there from Flavio Casanella and Nick Lamming. As for Lamming, ever closer to the chances of a top 10 start. Some rather curious comments there in the Twitch chat from Christian LeBay, perhaps hinting to the fact come Season 7 or perhaps even Season 8 of the NLRL Sunday League, we will see an enforced return from Malwar Racing. Now, looking back through the series' history, of course, when the first ever Teams Championship rolled around, it was Malwar Racing to take its title in the hands of drivers like Christian LeBay, Kevin Quain, Carl Markle, Byron Forrest, Timo de Tosto, Axel Cassier, Andrew Veldkamp and Timothy Jolicoeur. But as of right now, Euro Titans find themselves with an equally large lineup and hold on to that Teams Championship. And right now, from where we saw in the championship standings, look poised to become the first ever team to go on consecutive multiple-time runs. Nearest to the line, the number 420 among several cars here we see for John O'Driscoll. Up in front of him there was, I believe, looking at it here, that was, yes, Joseph Reyes. O'Driscoll was momentarily 13th, now forced down a peg. Gabriel Lavuga heading towards the line. Up in front of him there was Sam Dicker. Across the line, Lavuga still just held out from that top 10. As for Brooklyn Donkin, he's already in the top 10, but can't find any grounds further in towards 9th and beyond. 10 minutes left to go in qualifying here. So we are now halfway through the session. Number 77 from across the line. Just behind him there was Flavio Casanella. Now back onto the grid after his race ban following his incident with Cas van Velzen in Silverstone 2 rounds ago. Looking here for Brooklyn Donkin. I'm told there is a brand new livery for that number 17. Yeah, I think I can see it there. Same geometric design as before, but I'm liking the more stealth colours here. I believe there was a little bit more white on that livery the last we saw of it. So, new stealth livery, as I'll dub it there for Brooklyn Donkin. Supporting a top 10 start by looks of things, but he has got this one rather thinly held, just over a 10th from Gabriel Lavuga in 11th. So he's got to hustle now to get a higher position ahead of him. He's about 4 attempts out from his teammate Ian Skeen in 9th place. 387 across the line a moment ago. That was Willow Taylor, 18th at the moment, ahead of Dicker and Casanella. Cody Zarfel in 21st. We see for Ben Cheeseman, I believe, is he taking a page out of the book here of Alan Alexander by staying in the pit lane? Now, it is a curious one when you consider pace-wise. Qualifying predictions had it where Cheeseman was looking at a possible podium start, if not the second row. You see, obviously, for Alan Alexander, he almost immediately disqualified himself. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he carves up through the field here on a track like Donington Park. If you caught on with us last season, you would have seen that Donington Park served as round 7 and was arguably the most exciting round of season 5, giving us a proper thrill of racing. Jared Vermeulen then fastest in the session, but he's held up there by the number 9 of Patrick Leger in 4th. We see rocketing on past both of them is a recently relegated of the top 10 Brooklyn Donkin. He's now in behind Nick Lamming and Gabriel Lavuga. Eight minutes left to go in qualifying before we get on to what is a sort of semi-provisional enduro race, because the event config has been set up wrong. And sadly, there's nobody around to change it, so we'll have to go to war with what we have. But I'm sure these drivers will not argue against an hour and a half over what was an aggregate hour of racing in Donington. Following here with Brooklyn Donkin, his charge to get back up into that top 10 has officially begun. 7.5 minutes, and right behind him is Jared Vermeulen, still holding pole position. Vermeulen, on what I believe here is his second appearance to this grid. I believe he made his debut at the Nürburgring. One of 2 drivers to comprise the Apex Online Racing Pro group, though it does appear to be the case that he is either split off or just not categorized among it. But we do see down to the line goes Vermeulen and stays 125 thousandths in the lead of things here. For Mack, yet to have scratched within a 10th since this newfound time. 125.795, the fastest time of the session. Ian McGowan by 25 thousandths out from Vermack. And we saw it last season, as we mentioned before. It was a rookie that took a win outright. It was Michael Harris with Lexus. Could we be seeing Ferrari's first win of the NLRL Sunday League? This is something that we made a point of not too long ago in Silverstone. Of all the manufacturers to have taken wins in the NLRL Sunday League, Ferrari is one that in all 6 seasons has erroneously dodged that accolade up until today, where that could certainly change in the hands of Jared Vermeulen. McGowan stays in 3rd, Leger 4th, Galaxy in 5th. The BMW certainly on the charge now. Nearest to the line was the 991 Ian Skeen, now 6th in the session over Cas van Veltzen. Now it's worth noting he's only, as it stands there, get a glance at this gap, 3 thousandths away from Fake Galaxy in and amongst the top 5. The Aston Martin, though, in the gravel off of Redgate, so likelier than not to be back into the pit lane not long from now. He'll continue on forward. Up behind him there is Tyler Vermack, still 125 thousandths, reluctantly so, away from Jared Vermeulen, who is not too far off his trails either. This could be quite the game changer here for Ferrari. They've been waiting for this one for far too long. But of course, never say never on the prospects of another win from McLaren, whether it's from Tyler Vermack or Ian McGowan, who right now stand as the only 2 drivers within 2/10 of that fastest lap. Now, qualifying, of course, is one thing, but we've seen how close these drivers are willing to push the line on the race start. And where they treaded, I'd say, ever so slightly lighter at the Nürburgring in the last round, they'll see anything but here at Donington. There are plenty more drivers, much more confident at this circuit than what we saw at the Nürburgring. And we'll be seeing plenty more action therein on a north of 20 car grid on today's event. Just about 4.5 minutes left to go in the session. Nearest to the line then will be Tyler Vermack, but it does appear invalidated as he crosses the line. We'll see if that is the current case for things. Yes, it would be. And across the line Comes the number 14, stays as that fastest time. No improvement found thereafter. We did see a recent bump there for Richard Claffey, now to 13th on the grid. Number 87 is nearby, Nick Lamming. Looks to be, though, going into the pit lane, so in he goes to the paddock. Across the line was the, I believe, the 547 there, Cody Zarfel. Behind him, faintly see there the black and purple of Ian McGowan's McLaren. Number 387 nearest to the line, that would be Willow Taylor. Number 420 now disqualified, so that's John O'Driscoll. We start to see here one of the original members of what we later dubbed as the Back Row Bandits back in action here. Was that by his own volition? Only time will reveal the answers. Now, it was against, was it popular convention? It wasn't the 315 of Alan Alexander that found himself as part of the original Back Row Bandits. That was Kieran Rodd, one of his teammates over at the Euro Titans Endurance team. But in the absence of Rodd, this is going to be an interesting one. What a comment in the chat as well by John O'Driscoll. And this is, I'd say, ripped out of something of WWE in nature. They all want to be me, but there's only one. That's what he says there. Those are fighting words from John O'Driscoll for starting at the back. That's going to be an interesting look from both the front and back of the grid. We've only 3 minutes left to go in the session. Vermeulen and Vermaak to the line. Two South African talents collide here for the chances of holding pole position, but Vermeulen raises the bar. 125.712, now 208 thousandths over Vermaak. Ferrari are looking on incredible form here. This has been one long awaited for them. To become the 9th manufacturer to win in the NLRL Sunday League, they must first prove their mettle over 90 minutes of racing forthcoming here, with just under 2.5 minutes left to go. Patrick Leger goes second fastest for Ford. So now we have an all-rookies front row between the number 9 and the number 14. Tyler Vermaak in third, Ian McGowan in fourth. So McLaren, off of what started their session off as a 1-2, now find themselves facing a 3 and 4. Recent leaps then for Carlos Disch see him to 7th place for Audi, up and ahead of teammates Van Velsen and Donkin. Gabriel Lavuga rounds out the top 10 at this time. This is set to be a vibrant start to racing here, albeit in circumstances I'm not sure many of us were expecting for today. As we make our way down towards the line with Gabriel Lavuga, last round's rookies winner. Across the line he goes, stays in that 10th place spot. As we do approach now, in the next couple of seconds, will be the point of no return for many drivers on this grid. For Tyler Vermaak making his way down towards the line from turn 12. Will we be seeing anything close of a front row here? He needs about 900ths to go up and alongside Leger. Across the line he goes. Nothing found on that last lap. As for Vermeulen, can there be another improvement? Not on the last lap, but he has got one more shot here. The number 14 on phenomenal form in qualifying. Still holds that pole position, but it is still close enough to be intercepted. If the number 9, well, I'd say A, could stay out on track, and B, was able to pull something out of the hat there, but doesn't appear to be the case. Leger is back in, so it's out between these two. I would even hazard a guess to say maybe not McGowan or Galaxy. So yes, it is these two. Perhaps even Disch, who I'd say could still definitely charge up towards a top 5. He still, by looks of it here, has enough time to go in for one more lap. In front of him there is Zolt Beefgarner with TSRC Esports Lexus. Up in front of them, nearest to the line, the 387, Willow Taylor from 19th. Looking to intercept Flavio Casanella. Couldn't find it on that lap. We see for Zolt Beefgarner now into the top 10. From behind him, Carlos Disch approaching the line there in the number 54 and stays where he is. From behind is the number 77 of Flavio Casanella. Behind is the number 17 of Brooklyn Donkin. You see for Donkin as well to try and get up and ahead of Zolt Beefgarner. Not a particularly large gap to conquer there, about 34 thousandths of a second. Still very close margins here. Nearest to the line is going to be the number 8, so I think we'll be beaten by the bell here for Tyler Vermaak. So this is his one last shot to secure pole position. What can he find? A bit across the line he goes. From the number 8, I should say, stays in third. From behind him, a new fastest time there found, so the bar raised even higher for Jared Vermeulen. 125.555. The number 14 Ferrari on pole, and that looks to be all but secured as there are no remaining drivers of the top 5 left on track to challenge the reign of the number 14. What a performance here by Jared Vermeulen, who could deliver Ferrari to salvation in this championship. Time will reveal the answers, of course. The number 54 is not far away from the line. Across the line from beyond turn 12 was the number 58, Joseph Reyes for VEC Esports, then the 387. Carlos Deesh approaching the line. Needs 170 thousandths to go up onto the third row. That he does find up over Ian Skeen to 6th. On the third row then, alongside Fate Galaxy. These two shared upon the front row at the start of CRL Season 2. Just last night gone. Number 37, nearest to the line, Gabriel Lavuga. As it stands, needs 85 thousandths to go up to 10th place. Can he find it on this lap across the line? Yes, he can. And one over goes to 9th, pushing Zolt Beefgartner down to 10th. What a result then for the Lamborghini, but up at the head of the field at the end of this qualifying session. Jared Vermeulen of Ferrari in the number 14 takes pole position for the first time ever in his Sunday League career. Patrick Leger makes 2nd place for an all-rookies front row. Tyler Vermack makes 3rd. Ian McGowan 4th. Fate Galaxy rounds out the top 5. We'll get into the look of the grid not too long from now. At the end of this qualifying session, and what a session it has been so far for these drivers, we head into what is a little bit of an unexpected turn, as we will head shortly into an endurance race. After what was originally planned to be a standard round for tonight's event, we do find modified circumstances, and this is sadly something we can't change now that the event has started, so the drivers are just going to have to firm in a 90-minute race for today and see what happens here at Donington Park. But of course, we saw 60 minutes of racing last season, and that was already a fantastic spectacle in Season 5. So I do thoroughly look forward to seeing a bit of added time here at Donington on a fantastic circuit and a fantastic grid to boot. No news segment for today, just having a quick glance back in towards those regulations. Of course, modified version of the standard format, as we do find ourselves now adhering to a 90-minute race on a 1 mandatory pit stop for an open strategy. 3.2 seconds of fuel on that minimum stop. Super fast pit stops coming up then, much similar to what we saw in the endurance round that prevailed over round 4 at the Nürburgring. We'll find now followed up, hopefully to completion here in Donington Park. Just under 3 minutes left to go before the formation lap, and it's Jared Vermeulen on pole position. Patrick Leger in 2nd, and Tyler Vermack makes 3rd. Ian McGowan in 4th place, rounding out the top 5. Then starting the 3rd row is Fate Galaxy. Alongside him then is comrade in arms, Carlos Deesh in 6th place. Ian Skeen makes 7th, and Cas van Veltzen in 8th makes a Euro Titans 5, 6, 7, and 8. With Gabriel Lavuga breaking the tie there for 9th. Following him, Zolt Beefgartner rounding out the top 10. Brooklyn Donkin makes 11th ahead of Nick Lamming in 12th, with Richard Claffey in 13th. Jake Handley in 14th place, with Sam Dicker in 15th. Sergio Belder in 16th place ahead of Joseph Reyes in 17th. Flavio Casanella in 18th place ahead of Willow Taylor in 19th. Cody Zarfel rounds out the top 20. Then behind them, Ben Cheeseman, John O'Driscoll, and Alan Alexander all disqualified themselves or did not set times in qualifying. That'll leave them 21st through 23rd on this grid. Right at the very back then, one of the original back row bandits, the number 420 Ferrari, could be a curious one to watch. Same story for the 315, who has the best balance of performance of any one manufacturer on this grid. 28 kilos shed from the Continental in tonight's round. Ben Cheeseman will be a curious one to watch as well. Was originally predicted in a top 5 start. We just have made note of that there. There has been a disconnect in that top 5. I believe I'm a little confused there. I'm completely trying to rack my brain on who exactly just disconnected there. It's right on the tip of my tongue. The 4th place car has disconnected. That's now forced Fate Galaxy up towards 4th place. And Carlos Deesh now marks the top 5. I think it was Patrick Leger. Yes, it was. It was Patrick Leger. No, it wasn't Patrick Leger. He's right there. So who was that then that disconnected from 4th? Looking here, it's McGowan. It's Ian McGowan. Looking through there, yes, it's Ian McGowan that's disconnected. That is a crying shame as well. It was looking to be a very confident performance by that of McGowan.
30 seconds.
What a sudden shock to the system that's come to be. On board then with Jared Vermeulen, who'll be taking us away on what is now a 22-car pack for the start of this race here at Season 6, Round 5 of the NLRL Sunday League. See the rest of the grid lining up behind him then. Be 10 on one side and 12 on the other. We do see, now starting from the pit lane will be the 114. A curious turn there for Ben Cheeseman. We are set to go racing here. 90 minutes of racing coming up here in Donington Park. 1 hour and 30 minutes. In terms of those overtaking spots, you're looking right at the first among many here at Donington Park, the Redgate corner, turn 1. Parabolic in its design, tight on entry, loose on exit, so it gives the drivers the opportunity to try and dive for the inside and then put the hammer down as they make their way towards Hollywood and the Craner curves. Another overtaking spot will be a good exit off the exit of the old hairpin, then for the run up through Starkey's Bridge, then culminating at the possibility of overtaking opportunities thereafter at turn 7 at McLean's. Following on from a good exit of turn 8 at Coppice, opens more opportunities up for a counter-attack or even more overtakes therein on the run down the Starkey's Straight. The S's, while not necessarily an overtaking spot by most considerations, will, like we see for turn 8, serve as a good staging point for overtakes thereafter. We note there from the pit lane was, I believe, a little bit of a disturbance there, but as we currently understand it, the 114 is still in the paddock. And we'll start from the pit lane here down in what is set to be 22nd in this race today. Ones to watch then, of course, from the back of the field, Alexander and O'Driscoll, but from the front of the field, of course, Vermeulen and Leger. Keeping an eye out, though, for Galaxy and Deesh a little further down the line there, just towards the back end of the top 5. Also worth keeping an eye there for Vermac. We've seen some great starts from him in the past, but reeling away from the old wounds of the Nürburgring round. Can he hope to recuperate on some of the performance he missed out on in round 4? Also worth keeping an eye out for, we saw him a bit out wide there, as we mentioned it, but Cas van Velzen with Porsche. Also say to keep an eye out for Ian Skeen. Of course, he's very experienced here at Donington. We've seen his performances years in the past now. We know this is a driver who knows this track very, very well. We'll be looking to put on a stellar performance in today's event. But as we roll down towards the line here at turn 12 at Goddard's, about to meet the Wheatcroft Straight. As we head in towards the Enduro here in Donington Park, down towards the line. 90 minutes of racing, 22 cars in attendance, 21 on track, and 1 from the pit lane here for Season 6, Round 5. Without further ado, we are green and racing here in Donington, and a great start for the front row as Vermeulen tries to get away from Leger. He knows how formidable the Mustang can be on the straights, but holds his ground. Tyler Vermac slips up through to second. Right off the bat down at Redgate, a great start then from Vermac to go head-to-head with his nemesis at the front of the field. The number 14 gets away strong, the number 8 following along with him, then the number 9, then the 54, then the 55 to round out the top 5 on the script. Behind them, the number 1 and the number 991. A great start, all things considered, by Jared Vermeulen. Taking a look down the line to see John O'Driscoll's progress right off the bat. Of course, started towards the back already. You can see there both he and the 315 of Alan Alexander swallow up the number 77 of Flavio Casanella. At the back of the field there, Cody Zarfel in 21st. Then further down the line, just getting out onto the track now, the 114 of Ben Cheeseman. Brilliant start here in Donington, all things considered. Looking on board here was Zolt Beefgartner, a man caught firmly in the pack of cars up in front. You can see there a proper squeeze of steel. You can see side by side up the road is the Aston Martin and the Porsche of Euro Titans Endurance. We see here for Cas van Velzen, now falls in behind his teammate Ian Skeen. Behind them you can see Zolt Beefgartner goes out wide, as we see there in towards turns 9 and 10. Also the same story for Ian Skeen. Out back, you can see that, I believe, is Nick Lamming going for the inside, and we saw that's the 55. Where on earth is he in this sort of plane of existence at the moment? That is quite a scary thing to see. The 55, we can see they're off in the grass. That is very recent troubles for the number 55 BMW. Fake Galaxy brings out the yellow flags. He's pulled off to one side there at Melbourne. Could the writing be on the wall here for Galaxy? Of course, held a joint position with George Todd in the overall Drivers' Championship, but the number 55 has come to a screeching halt back into the paddock, and that could very well be the end of his time here. A bitter end for the 55 today. Looking then on here with Tyler Vermac squeezed in between the two rookie sensations at the front of the field. Jared Vermeulen leading the charge for Ferrari. Patrick Leger trailing Tyler Vermac on a recently lost second place. He now rounds out that podium. Carlos Deesh making 4th. Cas van Velzen now up to the top 5. Gabriel Lavuga in 6th place. A formidable start then from the number 37 to now find himself Division 3rd and 6th overall. Behind them, Ian Skeen and Zolt Beefgartner, 7th and 8th. Brooklyn Donkin in the top 10 in 9th. We see there out wide, that's Nick Lamming falling in behind John O'Driscoll. Down to 14th place goes the number 87, and that invites in Jake Handley to the top 10. On his first appearance to this grid, Handley for ERL with BMW now marks up the last of the top 10 positions. Joseph Reyes in behind, Alan Alexander and John O'Driscoll, the back row bandits of the new era, find themselves in pursuit from the 6th and 7th row of the grid. Behind them, Nick Lamming on that recently lost out position fell from the top 10 to 14th. Behind them, Willow Taylor and Richard Claffey. Flavio Casanella and Sam Dicker, 17th and 18th. Cody Zarfel in 19th, rounding out the top 20 is Sergio Belder. Ben Cheeseman makes 21st as we now get confirmation of the retirement of the 55. A brutal end to the race then for Fate Galaxy. His teammate, though, and comrade at arms, the 54 of Carlos Dish, still remains on this grid to fight another day. As we see fighting going on up in front, Leger gets a bit squirrely down at the old hairpin. A great start from these three. Screaming away from the rest of the field. Now 1.7 seconds up over Carlos Dish, but that gap is going to start to melt away here as the 54 picks up where he left off. It's worth noting Carlos Dish had quite the shocker turn, a very early retirement from last season's Donington race. So he is looking for revenge here where he couldn't obtain it with Ford. He is certainly looking on the cards for Audi. Speaking of Ford, though, Leger picks up on the fight for second. Vermeulen still trying to shake off Vermaak, but he's on him like a bad habit here. Off the exit of Melbourne, heading up towards Goddard's. Less than, I would definitely say this is less than 7 tenths we're looking at now between these two. As Vermaak, with the fastest lap so far, is on the scent here of the number 14, chasing down Jared Vermeulen. Will it be a 9th career win on the cards here for Tyler Vermaak? Could it be the first ever for Ferrari and the first in this series for Jared Vermeulen? Only time will reveal the answers, as we are only but 5 minutes through this round of the championship. Taking a look further down the line to see here a very close squeeze of cars with O'Driscoll v Reyes v Alexander as they head down through Redgate. Behind them, Nick Lamming in the number 87. Caught a little bit of grass there off the exit of Redgate. Now down through Hollywood onto the Craner curves. The 420 hot on the trails here of the 58 of Joseph Reyes. Could he be looking for a move on the inside at the old hairpin? Unlikely. He certainly gave it the thought. Leger v Vermaak. 4 tenths of a second through Coppice at this time. 2.5 seconds over Carlos Dish, who, without the benefit of the slipstream, was hung out high and dry from that top 3. O'Driscoll v Reyes still rages on, but I think recent chapters of it have now invited in opportunities from Nick Lamming. We see a bit of an awkward exit of turn 8 for Reyes. Brings O'Driscoll back into the mix, down towards the S's. Meanwhile, other close-by fights. We see Ian Skeen versus Zolt Beefgartner, a battle of the V8s between Lexus and Aston Martin. Up in front of them, an ongoing fight for the top 5, Van Velzen v Lavuga. Porsche versus Lamborghini, and of course the head fight at the moment, as now Vermaak starts to drop north of a second away from Vermeulen. Emerges now the fight for second place in the pit lane, and a very early stop by Sergio Belder of Holkianos Motorsports. Crawls onto the pit exit line here. And you can see, doesn't appear to be picking up on anything. He's waiting for the rest of the grid to get out ahead of him. It is a curious one here because he has every reason to leave the pit lane. He doesn't have to give way per se, but that's exactly what he's doing. Looking to go and catch on board with that ongoing fight on the podium. As we glance around the field to see then the point of view of Patrick Leger, sets his sights upon Tyler Vermaak off the exit of turn 8 here at Coppice. Heading down through the S's we go. You can see that bright green Ferrari just off in the distance there. Vermeulen nearly 2 seconds clear of Vermaak. It's just about 2.5 seconds clear of that of Leger. Behind them, a still ongoing fight between Diesch and Van Velzen now starting to emerge. It's worth keeping an eye out for that one also. As we see here now from Mac's point of view, half a second he holds up over Leger at this time, so let's go to catch on board with some of the other fights around the field today. We see for Carlos Diesch being approached by the previously cited fight there between Lavuga and Van Velzen, so he might find himself facing both barrels here, even from some of his own teammates. As for Gabriel Lavuga, of course, last round's rookie winner under red flags, the Lamborghini holding strong here to the chances of a top 5, has to hunt down last season's drivers champion to do so. Not an easy task to anyone, let alone a driver still fresh to this grid. Made his debut in Silverstone 2 rounds ago. Lavuga looking a very promising sight on this grid in the ISR Motorsport number 37. In behind them is Ian Skeen for Aston Martin, fighting at this time with Zolt Beefgartner. 3 tenths between these two as they barrel up through turn 8. Going to catch back on if we can here with the ongoing fight for Tyler Vermaak, as it does look to come to a head here down through turns 9 and 10. A great exit off of the S's does bring a bit of that gap forward from what was 0.2 of a second now to half a second down to Melbourne. Between the 8 and the 9, Ford versus McLaren versus Ferrari. In terms of the ACC meta, these are 3 of some of the most influential manufacturers of the modern GT3 space on Assetto Corsa Competizione. All 3 of these manufacturers took competition by storm with their entries, the 296, the 720S Evo, and the Mustang. Right now, on that top 5, it's worth noting 5, and actually, if you look a little further out, to see here the top, looking here, 7, 8 even, as a matter of fact, 9. So you get even further down the order. The top 9, all different manufacturers at this time. Ferrari leads over McLaren, with Ford rounding out the podium. Audi in 4th, and Porsche rounds out the top 5. Pursuing them is Lamborghini. Lexus in 7th. Pursuing Lexus is Aston Martin, and BMW round out a 9-car streak of different manufacturers. I just thought that was a curious note, and if Alexander can get up here over Jake Handley, that could be 10 cars. We do see a little bit of a bump between himself, the 420 and the 21, as it is quite the squeeze here for a fight among the top 10. Alexander already knows what it takes to win, but he doesn't know what to do here. Once he's been shoved out wide, he's a passenger on the grass as contact between himself and the 420. Muscled out wide there. It's a shoulder check from the 420. Heading up through towards McLean's. We saw there a bump. Once he's out of the grass, he can only hope to hold the wheel straight and hope the car doesn't rotate in on him. Fortunately, avoids any further contact on his way down through McLean's, and now finds himself a disgruntled P14. It's also worth noting here for Gabriel Lavuga, during that incident, has now himself fallen way down the order in that top 10, now 9th place in behind Brooklyn Donkin. And that does allow a bit of a sigh of relief here for this one. Cas Van Velzen, who was previously being pursued by the Lamborghini at this time, maintains his position among that top 5, still with his sights affixed on the 54 in front. Meanwhile, on the fight for the podium, Vermaak v Leger starts to cool over. It was, in the last interval, about a second between these two. Now it comes down to about 7 tenths. We'll see how much of a shove the number 9 is willing to give to catch back up to the McLaren in front. Ferrari still lead, and it looks to be coming up on north of 2 seconds. So a formidable performance to boot here in the opening 10 minutes by Jared Vermeulen. Ian Skeen versus Zolt Beefgartner. We'll go to catch on board with these two as well. It's also worth noting the revenge drive in progress by Alan Alexander. He's got Nick Lamming in front. He's got Joseph Reyes behind, but his sights are on that of John O'Driscoll. Following their incident down on the run through turn 6 into turn 7, as O'Driscoll looks to fight with Jake Handley. This is a fight that could get sour very quickly if these two reunite. For Handley at the moment, he finds himself in the crossfire and what could be one of the more inflamed fights of today's event. Skeen is out wide. The yellow flags are out for the Aston Martin. Now rejoining the track, Ian Skeen falls in behind and now out of the top 10. John O'Driscoll advances to the top 10. We see in the background behind side by side is Lamming and Alexander. Alexander now up and ahead, and it's contact between the two Mustangs behind as Nick Lamming gets a shoulder check from Joseph Reyes. Reyes gives the position back over to Lamming there. Clearly not content with getting the overtake sorted that way, and that's quite gentlemanly of them. The two Mustangs contempt to fight, but they'll do it on more agreeable terms than that. already having sorted that one out down at Melbourne. As for Gabriel Lavuga, that recent trouble for Ian Skeen has now put him in a much more favourable stead. He is slowly but surely climbing back through the order. That served as quite the springboard for him. Handley versus O'Driscoll, latest on consideration. As for that fight between Leger and Vermaak, that one currently maintains just south of 9/10 in the last interval. Same story for Van Velzen v Diesch. So we're going to leave you on board with, if we can here, the Ferrari of John O'Driscoll, currently contending for 9th place with Jake Handley. We do also take note there was a white flag, then a formerly yellow flag out for the number 77, Flavio Casanella, down at the Starkeys Bridge. We'll leave you on board with the Ferrari of O'Driscoll. I'll be back to you in just a moment's time. Still on board here with John O'Driscoll in the still ongoing fight for 9th place, as the number 420 still hounds the 21 for position at this time. Up through McLean's, up towards Coppice as we go. Further up ahead, there is an ongoing fight for Brooklyn Donkin at this time. Let's see if we can go and catch on board with the 17. Fighting here with Gabriel Lavuga off the exit of Coppice, now down the Starkey Straight. We do note there an incident for the number 74 at the same area we saw for the 77, the lap just gone. Coming up on then the first 15 minutes of racing here in Donington Park at Season 6, Round 5 of the Championship. Jared Vermeulen continues to lead over Tyler Vermaak. Patrick Leger in third, with Carlos Diesch looking at fourth because he rides on his tail, though, is his teammate Cas Van Velzen. It's worth noting, with Carlos Diesch leading the championship in this round, it is paramount here for Van Velzen to start overtaking his teammates in order to get himself back up at the head of the table. Of course, with that championship title to defend, this is going to rest as a curious footnote in that run into the second half of the championship for Cas Van Velzen. The number 1 still in pursuit here from behind is Zolt Beefgartner in 6th place. Donkin in 7th, just up ahead there of Gabriel Lavuga, who is in hot pursuit of that BMW. In the background then, O'Driscoll finally gets the move in over Handley, moving to 9th, Handley 10th, with Ian Skeen not too far away. Alan Alexander not too far behind Skeen either, as troubles continue for the Euro Titans team. We saw contact between O'Driscoll and Alexander not too long ago, and a recent incident there out wide off the S's for Ian Skeen leaves him high and dry out of that top 10 for the time being, but the Aston Martin is in pursuit of Jake Handley in the ERL number 21 BMW. Further down the line, we do see here still close fighting from quite a fair few of the rookies. Reyes v Lamming v Taylor v Claffey in a 4-car split for 13th. We saw similar action in the last coverage of the Donington Park round of the NLRL Sunday League. That would be back in Season 5, Round 7, if memory serves right. We see much the same conditions play out here towards the back of the pack. See as well, approaching the mix, that's Ben Cheeseman in the number 114. Making his way down through the S's. It's worth noting that Cheeseman started from the pit lane, now up with the bulk of the field. Is a curious one to consider here that Cheeseman has put on a rather exemplary performance thus far to put himself back up with the mix. Looking here, side by side, as Lavuga overtakes Donkin. Can Donkin counter-attack here in a turn 1 at Redgate? He's got the longer line of 2, meaning he'll be able to get the hammer down just off the exit of turn 1 here, but he is in behind the Lamborghini. Gabriel Lavuga now moves up towards 7th place. Meanwhile, we note here, ongoing fight between Cas Van Velzen and Carlos Diesch. And this is a scary thing to see as well when you consider that Van Velzen had a very surprising end to his Donington Park race. So you find 2 drivers here scorned by their last visit to Donington in this championship, both out for blood. I highly, highly doubt these 2 will be giving each other any kind of favours in today's race. In terms of that ongoing fight between Lavuga and Donkin, Lavuga has wasted absolutely no time in opening the gap up there from 7th place. The number 37 rockets away from the 17 out through Coppice. Lamming versus Cheeseman. We saw the overtake on Claffey by Cheeseman down at Melbourne, but it's contact at Coppice at turn 8. That can collect the others along with. We see there for Cheeseman, manages to get up and ahead, but is now through on past. Goes the number 93. Richard Claffey surfed the wave there and gets 2 positions for the price of 1. The 93 CRT Racing Porsche, who we saw actually not too long ago last night in CRL Season 2 Round 1, and Imola picking back up where he left off with Porsche. And that was a fantastic move there. Just thread the eye of a needle to get that move in over both Lamming and Cheeseman. That could have gotten ugly. The 93, rest assured, has kept it anything but. Down through to turn 12 we go. As for Van Velten, he drops in behind Carlos Deesh on the run up the Starkey's Bridge in towards McLean's at turn 7. Meanwhile, an update from the fight on the podium as Leger is closing in on Tyler Vermaak off the exit of turn 8. With Vermaak now 2.7 seconds away from the leading Ferrari of Jared Vermeulen. Leger is on the trails here of that number 8 McLaren and is hungry for that second place spot. He's division second at the moment, but Leger has his sights set upon that overall second place spot, looking at a rookie's 1-2. Out behind, we see recent overtake then places Van Velten over Deesh. Makes one wonder how on earth did he pull that one off, given he was behind at the Starkeys. We do note as well, just keeping an eye here, yellow flag out, the number 58, Joseph Reyes, in trouble down between turns 7 and 8. You can see there, readily apparent, that is quite major damages for the Mustang. Now having fallen out towards the back of the top 15, even out there of the top 15 as it stands. That could be an immediate pit stop coming up then as he's in behind Nick Lamming, who in turn will gain a position as Willow Taylor now collects a drive-through penalty. Track limits violations, 1 too many there for the 387. That's a free position for Lamming. I can't say much the same for Reyes. Recent troubles here for Jake Handley as now he finds himself against both barrels of Bentley. Alan Alexander is in pursuit and is closing fast. Ian Skeen is in the pit lane. An earlier stop than expected for the 991, but this is damage mitigation for the Aston Martin after his incident down at turns 9 and 10. Trying to gain some of that lost ground as he goes earlier to the pits, hoping to make up more ground into his second and last stint of today's race. Having served their drive through, the 387 of Willow Taylor is released back onto the track. We watch here with Carlos Deesh and his efforts of a counter-attack against his teammate Cas Van Velten, who recently got that 4th place off of him. Up in front, you can see much closer than when we last saw them here for Leger versus Vermaak. Up in front of them, Cody Zarfel of Hurry Racing Ferrari down in 19th place. 20 cars remaining on this track. It's been a brutal start on what originally started as a grid of 23. Saw a disconnect from McGowan on the opening grid. Unfortunately had to withdraw from this round due to those scheduling concerns. So we'll hope to see him in the next round at Barcelona. And then further DNFs, among them was the 55, and that is really quite a heartbreaking thing to have seen there for Fake Galaxy. It was a very confident performance in qualifying, but that race start, I'm not quite sure yet what happened for him, but we saw it was major connection troubles. Ultimately, he elected by his own volition there to pull to one side of the track and called it quits down at turn 11. Looking here with Carlos Deesh. It's going to be worth catching on board with either perspectives here on the fight in the top 5. As we look to locate here, the number 4, we see Cas Van Velten holding 4th place. The number 1, I should say, holding 4th place. Looking here for Patrick Leger, the fight for 2nd place from the point of view of the number 9 Mustang. And taking a look at what we've got coming up later on into the next week coming. Starting off on Monday evening, you'll see Season 11, Round 1 of Fats GT's GT3 Championship. We go live Monday evening On Tuesday, in the Tuesday evening time slot, we've got Season 6, Round 3 of the TRC Sprint Cup EU Series. Wednesday morning, 1 AM BST, we see Season 4, Round 3 of the Competizione Performance League GT4 Pro-Am Cup America Series. In the evening on Wednesday, we'll see the OLR x VSR Midweek Championship Round 1, now taking the place of VSR Season 12. Friday evening, we'll see the OLR x VSR Porsche Super Cup Round 2 after a brilliant opening round in Imola. On Saturday, we'll see the second round of the HCCL Ginetta Summer Challenge after a brilliant opening round in Brands Hatch. We also see in the evening as well Continental Racing League Season 2 Round 2. We saw their opening round just last night, and of course coming up next Sunday, Season 6 Round 6 of the NLRL Sunday League live from Barcelona. Continuing to watch in then with Leger versus Vermac. 0.4 of a second in closing. We see these two are razor thin to one another at this time out through Melbourne. In behind them, Diesch and Van Velzen continue to squabble for position at fourth. Looking, see if we can catch on board here with a point of view from Carlos Diesch. We see just how close he is to his teammate Cas Van Velzen. Of course, last season's championship rivals from across both the overall and Rookies Championship. Worth noting, there was an incident just whilst we were talking about the upcoming stream itinerary, as there was an issue for the 991. Ian Skeen in trouble on his run out of the pit lane. Now see him here a lap down from these two in 11th and 10th, Jake Handley and Alan Alexander. The Diesch versus Van Velzen, fourth place still on the cards between these two. Van Velzen currently holds that gap by about 6/10. A wide run though out of the old hairpin. You can see the Porsche fidgeting there over the curbs as the 54 closes in. As for Leger versus Vermac, we can see somewhat of a second wind forming here for the number 8, who in spite of a 3.1 second gap between himself and the leading 14 of Jared Vermeulen now starts to forge up his own gap against Patrick Leger, and as we saw in the last interval, was just shy of a full second between these two. In a 90-minute race, we're expecting the midway mark of 45 minutes to be where we see the bulk of our pit stops, but as we saw in the Nürburgring, it can be a bit of a variable rate here. Some drivers willing to go a little further over, some drivers, as we've seen already today, willing to go a lot earlier than expected. In terms of these two, neither of them take that leap just yet. As for Van Velzen and Diesch, we'll see if that's the case, making our way down towards the line. 25 minutes through on this round of the championship. Close to the first 30 minutes. We do see recently in the pit lane, then goes Jake Handley. And I believe brought into the pit lane there. I don't believe that was of his own volition, as yes, there is an incident down the Starkey Straight. And I believe, who is it for there? Looking at it, I think it was the 87, I think we saw there, was Lamming. You can see damage there for Nick Lamming, and quite significant damage also, as we see there in behind him, Joseph Reyes. And I think, yes, that was Handley. Handley has now retired from this race. It makes you wonder what on earth happened there. We daren't open the replay system. I do not want to run into another crash again, but a heartbreaking end for Jake Handley. Meanwhile, in the Diesch v Van Velzen fight, we do find here an opening gap between these two, just shy of 6/10. In the pit lane at the moment is Lamming, and as it looks to be here, Ian Skeen now into the paddock also. Number 991, now 19th in this race, is back into the paddock. With Nick Lamming now in the pit lane. By now 3 cars to have served their pit stop in today's race. Carlos Diesch closes the gap back in on Cas Van Velzen. As for the Leger v Vermac fight, this is a curious one still, as 6/10 in closing is that number 9 on the number 8 in front. We see a bit of an awkward run from both parties there down through the old hairpin. They hold their ground on the podium. Meanwhile, at the back of the top 5 is the still ongoing clash here between Carlos Diesch and Cas Van Velzen. Watching on here with the number 54 Audi in pursuit. Last season's Rookies champion in pursuit of last season's Drivers champion. All in contention at that 4th place spot. We see though for Van Velzen barely holds it within the lines. As we do note another yellow flag out in front, and that's since cleared itself. That was for the 387 of Willow Taylor down the Starkey Straight. Down through to the S's, turns 9 and 10. Number 1 there has now just been given a drive-through penalty, so that was the straw that broke the camel's back for race control against Cas Van Velzen. That drive-through penalty, as we see already, now ushers on through the number 54. Carlos Disch moves up to 4th place. Van Velzen will be immediately diving to that pit lane. We see behind, beaming ear to ear to see this news, will be that 599, now about to enter the top 5. That's Zolt Beefgarner of TSRC Esports Lexus. Gabriel Lavuga will be looking at his chances here after recent troubles. He's actually using this as an opportunity now to come to the pit lane in the number 37. In goes the Lamborghini of Lavuga. Staying out then. Looks to be plenty more drivers in behind him. John O'Driscoll advances 2 positions now, up to 7th. We see it is a very quick stop, all things considered, for those drive-through penalties. So for the number 1, he only emerges here a few positions down, still as it would happen to be the case, if I'm not mistaken, yes, within the top 10. Up in front, news from the podium as that fight continues to draw closer to a stalemate between Vermaak and Leger. Vermaak holding Leger at arm's length. We now can confirm we are now down to 18 cars in this race after what appears to be the retirement of the 387 of Willow Taylor. We also noted there the Aston Martin has been forced to retire as well. That's for Ian Skeen, citing brake pedal concerns. So the braking system on the Aston is failing here in Donington. That's heartbreaking as well for Skeen. We saw already were some troubles for stability, but even when he had those figured out on his second stint, those brakes ended up creating even more issues for the Aston in this race. And that's sadly the 91's day in Donington over. As we approach the first 30 minutes of racing then, battling is starting to crawl to a halt as drivers now aim for survival here in Donington Park. We've seen many drivers already fumble in their efforts to maintain a top 10 for reasons both in and out of their control. As for Leger, he still has his sights set upon Tyler Vermaak. With Van Velzen's recent drive-through penalty, his goals now orient towards a revenge drive. So that number 1, you can see already nostrils flared, ready to go. As the Porsche begins to climb back up through the top 10. First in his sights then will be the man who started from the back of the field alongside the 315 of Alan Alexander, John O'Driscoll, in the number 420 Ferrari, who sets his sights right now, as it happens, on the 17 of Brooklyn Donkin. Looking to go and catch on board then with O'Driscoll, as he does find himself squeezed within the fight now between 2 separate cars. Tiva Lavuga there being lapped out past by the leading Ferrari of Jared Vermeulen. Looking to catch on then with O'Driscoll. You can see pressed right up to the back end of the number 17. So this is the fight for 6th we're seeing between Donkin and O'Driscoll. The question is, will Donkin be sizing a run up towards the pit lane? Are we seeing indicators of an in-lap here from the number 17? No being the answer, so the 420 is in hot pursuit. And really, with a gap at 2.6 seconds, he'll want to try to throw absolutely everything into this drive now to put some distance between himself and Cas Van Velzen, because that is a frightening thing to have in your rearview mirror. On board then with John O'Driscoll in pursuit then for 6th place. Through turn 6 and towards turn 7. This was where O'Driscoll had that incident with the 315 of Alan Alexander. I believe we still have that one on the replay, so we take a look back to when that was quite a fair few laps ago in their ongoing fight. They were tucked up behind Jake Handley at the time. It was a shoulder check out through turn 6. That left the 315 high and dry, running up towards turn 7. tried to anchor the car in. The back end came loose. He was out into the gravel off the exit of McLean's. It's worth considering less than 10 seconds away from O'Driscoll at this time is the very same 315 of Alan Alexander. O'Driscoll is surrounded on all sides then by the Euro Titans endurance team. Will it be a bit of a case here with his incident with the Bentley? Has he stirred the hive a little bit now off of the 17 and the 1? Evidently, though, O'Driscoll's not about to find out because he's into the pit lane. A curious turn of events there for the number 420. Into the paddock goes John O'Driscoll. We see here from Jared Vermeulen carving his way through traffic, now out through turn 8 at Coppice onto the Starkey Straight. And this has been an impeccable performance thus far from the number 14. His second appearance to the Sunday League. And it has been quite the barnstormer performance by Ferrari today. Never had I thought I'd seen it. In 6 seasons of the NLRL Sunday League, many have come along to race with Ferrari. Few have ever stood at the head of the table, and few still, little to none, have ever won a race outright. Today could be the day that changes. Now, Ferrari, it's worth noting, has taken division wins, especially this season, in the hands of drivers like Elias de Vos. They have seen rookies division wins, but never once has it been an outright victory. It's never quite been the whole slice of pie they've been searching for, but the number 14 may deliver salvation to Ferrari on this day. 8 other manufacturers in the history of this series, over 63 races, have taken victories in the past, with McLaren, BMW, Aston Martin, Lexus, Ford, Mercedes, Porsche and Bentley all taking victories over the last 63 races that comprise the entirety of the NLRL Sunday League. Ferrari, in spite of its popularity with that 296, has evaded that accolade for far too long. As the sun begins to set here, 6:40 p.m. local, we are starting to see these slow kindlings into the fall of daylight in towards nighttime here in Donington Park. 55, just under 56 minutes left to go. They are in for a long road ahead of them. Leger versus Vermac picks up into a brand new chapter as they're held up behind Joseph Reyes of VEC Esports. Lavuga fights with O'Driscoll now off the exit of his pit lane run. We now get to see, though, was a bout of contact there at turn 11 at Melbourne, as getting the move up to 11th place goes Gabriel Lavuga of ISR Motorsports Lamborghini. Let's go and catch on board, though, with the fight of Vermac v Leger and see what brand new direction that takes us in. Looking to catch on board if we can here with either party involved. We see from Leger still pursuing Vermac every step of the way here. And in that last lap, 1:27.337 from Leger, trying to stay as close as he can to Vermac in front, half a second down through Hollywood. Now to the Craner curves. Noting a little bit of instability on connection for the 547. I believe that's Cody Zarfel that's having a few connection blips there. As it stands, though, nothing major. Just under 55 minutes left to go. Coming up on a 54 minutes here as we see continue to see fighting between Vermac and Leger. But it's yet to really have hit its flashpoint in their rivalry for second. Vermac had a brilliant start right off the bat, leveraged that good start from the McLaren to get up and along with Leger on the inside at Redgate. And it's been history since. Whenabouts could the fortunes shift back in the favour of the Dutch talent in third? As Leger looks to reunite with Vermeulen for a rookies 1-2. Very similar, as a matter of fact, to what we saw in our last visit to Donington, where it was Michael Harris versus Ellie Pocket. Looking away from their fight briefly to see a new one forming here. Van Velsen versus Donkin. And a curious turn for the number 1. Of course, having served that drive-through penalty not too long ago, we see for Cas Van Velsen, having forfeited that fight with Carlos Disch for 4th place, now tries his chances to slowly but surely recuperate ground to a top 5 finish. His target in sight then would be Zolt Beefgarner, currently on his way down through the Craner curves as Van Velzen rounds on to the Wheatcroft straight. Back on with Leger v Vermac as it is getting closer by the second here. Off through Coppice we goes. Up in front of them is John O'Driscoll. Now lapping on past the number 420 Ferrari onto the racing line once again as we barrel in towards turns 9 and 10 at the S's. See, really trying to put the hammer down, but he's got to be careful for those track limits. We saw that's what caught out Van Velzen only a few laps ago. 25 laps into this race so far, 52.5 minutes left to go here in Donington. Half a second between each other at this time, having a glance once again out towards the rest of the field. Latest updates from any other fights at this time. We did note one, of course, between Donkin and Van Velzen, but that's now advanced north of 1.5 seconds. So unlikely to see a new chapter on that one unless something untoward happens for that number 1, but his sights are firmly set on Zolt Beefgarner, and he's got 51 minutes to play for it. Now, it's worth noting as well, as we are around 6 minutes from the halfway mark of the race, that's normally the Goldilocks zone for the earliest stops we've seen. We have seen it, especially during the time of Melvin Milliston's 2 championship long reign, was quite a commonly utilised tactic, was about roughly 6 to 8 minutes before the midway mark was the ideal time to come into the pits on a longer form race. So it could be a point worth making that we could be starting to see more drivers into the pits in the next couple of laps. Up in front of them there, you can see that's Gabriel Lavuga. Neither of our podium sitters yet considering options to the pit lane. Lavuga gets past there by Vermac, then following him is Leger on the Wheatcroft straight in towards Redgate at turn 1. And it's among the closest fights on track at the moment. This has been a broadly different take of Donington Park. What we were expecting to see was plenty more action since our last visit in Season 5, Round 7 has been marred by plenty of incidents and plenty of retirements. Now finding us in a fight for survival here in Leicestershire. Into the pit lane then goes the 114 Ben Cheeseman, now in for McLaren and 5-Star Esports. Meanwhile, looking back in for the fellow 5-star car on this grid, the number 8 of Vermac still being pursued by Leger down through the old hairpin. Zolt Beefgarner is latest into the pit lane in the TSRC Esports number 599. Almost said McLaren there. Again, odd-looking McLaren. Lexus as the McLaren of the 114. Ben Cheeseman now just releases from the pit lane. There is the possibility here with that setting sun of concerns over visibility for these drivers, as that is starting to get rather peskily low, and that is going to start affecting their vision of the track. You already see how it's glaring off of the windscreen here. It's giving us a little less detail every passing lap. That could be trouble in a few laps' time. As we see, though, drawing closer to the halfway mark. Number 14 stays out, as it would appear there, for Jared Vermeulen. Vermaak stays out, so too does Leger. Richard Claffey is latest into the pit lane, 9th place as he went in there in the number 93 CRT Racing Porsche. Zolt Beefgartner gains ground in towards 8th place. As for Gabriel Lavuga, now up into 9th, so Claffey to the back of the top 10. O'Driscoll approaching from behind, so that's going to be a case where Claffey's going to drop out of that top 10. It still does raise a question here over strategies from behind 4th place, because Diesch stays out on this lap. We'll see for Van Velzen what the calling card is at the moment. I would have said, given his plight with the drive-through penalty, an earlier stop would have been on the cards, as that would have helped to give him a bit more clear space and a slightly longer stint to where he can knuckle down and focus on just delivering consistently fast lap times. That will end up proving to be vital in getting back up through the order. Van Velzen stays out, so too does Donkin, so too does Alexander at this time. Vermaak v Leger starting to close back in slowly but surely. It has been quite the running theme of their fight here. Nothing has been sporadic. Everything has been deliberate. These two towards the front of the field, off in their own world here, effectively playing the most expensive game of chess. About 1.1 million euros worth of GT3 racing machinery. Down through turn 12 at Goddard's. Again, neither of them consider the options for the pit lane. TTV Region in chat saying it's too hot in the room that he's playing in at the moment. Albeit that's a bit of a creative reinterpretation of what he actually said. I can't say that on stream, but yeah, the heat wave conditions at the moment in the UK is going to make for a very, very tough week from us, because you could possibly hear it in the background that the air conditioner we have is on full blast. Even then, it is still ridiculously hot. We've got the PC running. We've got a brand new Xbox, so that's kicking out less heat than the last one, but still, I would not say it is much better here. I would say we're somewhere between 7th ring of hell and the freezer aisle at your local Tesco's, with half of the freezers still broken. Yeah, but this week coming is going to be an interesting one. For those perhaps curious as to what we're talking about tuning in, at the moment there is an upcoming heat wave in the UK. We're going to be seeing 4 days of consistently north of 30-degree weather. Now, that doesn't sound too bad if you're tuning in from, say, for example, the United States, where they get higher temperatures on average, or perhaps over in Australia, where they have catastrophically high temperatures by comparison. The difference between these three countries is the UK doesn't have any infrastructure built in for its for its new homes to accommodate for air conditioning. That is a luxury item under our consideration. So that is going to make, unless you've got a portable aircon like we do, that's going to make this week a real trial. A real trial. And we see now, recently into the pit lane, right at the halfway mark of the race, Tyler Vermaak is in. Patrick Leger stays out, so he's going to move up in towards 2nd. Jared Vermeulen yet to have budged from the leading position. That 14 isn't going anywhere. And right now for Vermeulen, this is looking to be the makings of one of Ferrari's, if not their greatest performances in Sunday League history. Carlos Diesch stays out. As for Van Velzen, what's the call here for the number 1? Worth noting, an ongoing fight here. Casanella v Claffey, as Claffey moves up over Casanella to 12th place. Heading down towards turn 12. In behind them, trying to lap out past, is the 315 of Alan Alexander. Through Goddard's we go. Claffey's still got the ground here over Casanella. Also in the pit lane is Cas Van Velzen, now in the paddock. Alan Alexander stays out. Up in front then, we see for Flavio Casanella fighting with Richard Claffey. We also see along with them here, just getting out past, is the number 8. Now having just left the pit lane, that's Tyler Vermaak. As it stands to be the case right now, with Van Velzen back into the paddock, and we just see there entering the pit lane as we were going to catch on board with Van Velzen, that's Jared Vermeulen. So that really does go to show the distance he's accrued on this grid so far, where Van Velzen down in 7th just came in and is now leaving the pit lane. Vermeulen has just entered. Also following him in then, Patrick Leger. Could it be a call here for Carlos Diesch to join them in this pack of cars coming into the pits? We'll see from the 54, down through turn 12. And diving to the pits then goes the 54. Brooklyn Donkin still astray there from the main bulk of the pack up in the top 3. Finds himself 4th at the moment. 5.4 seconds over Tyler Vermack at the back of the top 5 right now. Same story for Alan Alexander. He's among the top 10, close at this time to Vermack. Has yet to come to the pits. Vermeulen's already on the way out here, so rests on the shoulders of Leger, knowing that he could be intercepted at any point here by Tyler Vermack. The number 9 is on the way out, but Vermack rounds through Goddard, is on the Wheatcroft straight. The number 9 still on its way out of the paddock. Can the cameras go and locate him? As we see there in the foreground, the McLaren gets up past. Leger falls down from 2nd. We see, as a matter of fact, falls in just behind Alan Alexander, but of course he's still yet to come to the pits. As for Carlos Dish, he's going to re-emerge by looks of things here, possibly in behind the 599. No, it's a very swift exit for the 54, so holds his ground up over Beefgartner. As of right now, then, looks at 6th place. And that could advance 2 more positions with Donkin and Alexander's anticipated pit stops. 42 minutes left to go here in round 5. Latest into the pit lane is Flavio Casanella in the number 77. Taking a look here to see the McLaren now at a stop. Of course, we see there in front the now retired Aston Martin. 77, he comes in to serve that stop, but it's not counted towards anything there. So that is a curious one. Has he taken on fuel? It is a minimum 3.2 second fuel stop, but it's technically classified as open category. I don't think Casanella's taken that stop, so he does find himself still with that mandatory pit stop to serve because he's not fulfilled the requirements of the mandate. But Donkin, will there be an entry to the pit lane? Not on this lap. He stays out onto lap 33. Vermack in pursuit from behind. We see there Leger tucked in behind what looks to be Cheeseman and Claffey. Down in 12th and 13th. Alan Alexander not too far away then from Leger, but he also has to serve his pit stop over the course of the next 40 minutes of racing. Carlos Dish now 6th in the race. You can see in the background there, 7th for Zolt Beefgartner. Latest into the pit lanes, Joseph Reyes in the number 58. We see there, he held on to that damage. So where we really thought when he first picked up the damage on the 58 that he would have been almost immediately into the pits, he held out and stayed on strategy. The 58 now into the paddock. It's going to be a longer stop for the VEC Esports number 58 to tend to those damages if it is deemed necessary to repair. In terms of close fighting at the moment, we do find ourselves a little bit starved for options at this time. .1 seconds on what was previously the closest fight on the field between Leger and Vermack. Into the pits goes Alan Alexander. Now, his main rival in this race is John O'Driscoll after their contact at turn 6, just before the run into McLean. So he's hoping to emerge out of the paddock ahead of that 420 Ferrari. As of right now, heading down towards the S's at turns 9 and 10. Alexander already aware of the fact that he's going to drop from the top 5. Carlos Dish up to 5th. Beefgartner to 6th. Van Veltzen to 7th. Lavuga to 8th. But this is the main target to emerge ahead of. Can the 315 make sure of it? .315. It's a long stop here for Alan Alexander. I believe the drivers are taking on fuel. We see the 420 is on the opening straight on the Wheatcroft, so looking to go up and ahead of the Bentley. Heartbreak for that of the 315, now dropping in behind the 420. But he's still well within range, just out of Redgate. We see leaving turn 1 is Alan Alexander. The fight is back on between these two. We see for Tyler Vermack intercepting Brooklyn Donkin, who is likely to be coming into the pits shortly. Stays out onto lap 35. Question remains for that 17. How much longer is he going to try and stay out? over the course of this race. I think he's going to try and run that BMW dry. We do see here Reyes v Casanella, a new fight found here for 15th place between the 77 and the 58 at this time. Up through to turn 6, now to turn 7. Joseph Reyes trying to peel away there from Flavio Casanella. Looking for Tyler Vermaat, we see from the number 8's point of view. Through to Coppice we go, onto the Starkey Straight. You see there, front to rear, just nearly. The BMW with better straight line speeds able to hold the McLaren at arm's length here on the Starkey Straight. Now out through the S's and up towards the run of Melbourne. You can see the sun just poking in under the visor there on the windscreen of the McLaren. Looking for the inside off the BMW. The number 17 is vulnerable. Now on through goes the number 8. As it stands to be the case, just over 10 seconds away from the leading Ferrari, Jared Vermeulen is 37 minutes away from delivering Ferrari to their first ever Sunday League win. Donington stays out onto lap 36. It has been a curious story indeed for that BMW. Number 17 from Euro Titans. We're back on here with Joseph Reyes, catching on with the action here. Behind him, Flavio Casanella, still by 0.4 of a second away. Taking a look on the wider scope of the charts here, Donington still close by to Vermaat, but will be hemorrhaging ground with those currently waning tyres. See, the lights do come on for the McLaren. And same story for the Ferrari. So we could very likely be seeing the scope of some nighttime racing before the end of this round. You see that drive-through penalty for Flavio Casanella, just given out there for driving too far over the track limits multiple times. So track limits infractions for Casanella. That will be a drive-through penalty coming up for him. We see Kieran Rodd, and hang on, this is quite a curious one. Kieran Rodd is on this grid. Now, we haven't seen Kieran Rodd all day. We hadn't seen him before this race. We hadn't seen him during free practice. We hadn't seen him during qualifying. And now 37 laps in, here he is. That is a strange appearance from the paddock. Will he be getting out onto the track? Lord only knows. See for his teammate, Brooklyn Donkin, still holding ground here off of Leger. After having lost the ground off to Vermaat, we see that Patrick Leger is hungry for that podium and will not be taking no for an answer. On board with the number 9, fighting for third. Down through the old hairpin they go. At turn 4, now up through turn 5 and 6. Looking to catch on board here, the driver's eye view from Leger. We see what he sees heading up through to turn 7 at McLean's. You can see the attitude on the car heading up the hill here and towards turn 8. See, they're sawing the wheel just a little bit to try and find even an ounce more grip in the Mustang. The BMW, where it originally held that advantage in straight line speed over the McLaren, it will not hold over the Mustang. Neither of these two manufacturers will be finding themselves particularly much lighter because they are two among the heaviest in GT3 today. Down through to Melbourne. Good exit off of Melbourne, but better acceleration there from the BMW. Leger pokes the nose to the inside, tries to get inside the 17's head, but doesn't seem to be going all too swimmingly there. As I say, off the exit of Goddard's at turn 12, a bit of a poor exit from the last corner. Left Donkin open off the exit of Goddard's. And down the Wheatcroft is where we find Leger now up to third. Half a second between those two, and it is worth noting that the 77 is now on his last lap to serve at stop and go. So if he does not serve it on this lap, it will, by looks of things here, be a disqualification for Flavio Casanella. He has got
really now to try and wind things in. We do see an ongoing fight. It's O'Driscoll v Alexander. This is the one we've been waiting for here, and thank goodness we found it in this time, because they're side by side and now back in a single file down through to turn 12. So suddenly, after what was a bit of a dry spell for action in the last couple of laps, now explodes back into the same action we've been waiting all race to see. As we do note there, yellow flags out down at the Starkeys Bridge for the number 77, now back into the pits. That could be the end of the road for Flavio Casanella. We're watching on board with the Bentley of Alan Alexander, starting along with John O'Driscoll. These two found bad blood in the first couple of laps at turn 6, but now we're back on board with the 315 contending 9th. And we see there a bit of a wobble in towards turn 5. It's too narrow to fit that monstrously large Bentley into. As the sun sets here on Donington Park, things only get brighter in the hopes for 9th here for Alan Alexander. Off the exit of turn 7 at McLean's, you can see wrestling the controls off the Bentley. And in spite of its enormous size, the Bentley Continental is actually a remarkable work of weight saving. Even before BOP today, the Continental is actually among the lighter cars for GT3. It was a work of witchcraft from the folks at Bentley and M Sport to assemble this machine. That Ferrari's no slouch either. We can see one is currently leading this race. So it stands to reason then that 296 has got quite some spice to it. Making our way down towards turn 12. Alexander v O'Driscoll has been the rivalry of this round, and now looks to be entering a unique new chapter here onto lap 39. What a cinematic shot that is there, with the sun just gleaming yonder the tree line. V8 versus V6. David and Goliath by size to one another here. That Bentley is a proper, we called it in the last round, a battle cruiser for every reason here. The pure size of this machine makes it difficult to race side by side on tighter tracks like this, but it makes it an imposing presence in any rear view mirror. A little bit of a wobble for him though at McLean's, does drop some distance to O'Driscoll. 0.4 of a second between the Ferrari and the Bentley. You can see he had better rotation out through Coppice. And the waning sunlight against the track, turning this track into a ribbon of gold for these two. Up towards turn 11. In towards Melbourne. 19 cars, of course, remaining on this grid. Technically 18 when one considers Ian Skeen. Alexander still hell-bent on that position. You can see in the last lap, these two were separate by 31 thousandths of a second. Two sides of the same coin here, two broadly different machines at play. But this is creating a proper spectacle of racing between these two, picking up where they left off so many laps ago. Quickly cutting away, though, from their endeavours to go and catch on here with another fight ongoing. Gabriel Lavuga versus Cas van Veltzen. It's been a troubled race for that number 1, no doubt about that, but he now finds further grief from the number 37 ISR Lamborghini of Gabriel Lavuga, last round's rookies race winner. It's worth noting, new fastest lap comes from this one here, Patrick Leger, and his continued pursuits of Tyler Vermack, 3.1 seconds in their last interval, but that could still grow further. We see in the background there, that, I believe, is Joseph Reyes, who was out wide on the Starkeys Bridge trying to avoid any contact with the oncoming number 9 of Leger. Back on board with the 315 versus the 420 as we barrel down towards Melbourne, looking for the inside. Can he get inside the 420's head? Yes, he can, and the door's open. 315 steps into center frame here, but he still loses the inside out to O'Driscoll. They're neck and neck down towards turn 12 at Goddard's. Ferrari on the inside, Bentley to the outside. Alan Alexander tries to set up a switch back there, but the Ferrari formidable rotation down through a very slight decline in turn 12. And that gives O'Driscoll all the momentum he needs to hold that ground for 9th. Whilst two fights rage on in tandem. 7th and 9th, respectively, between Van Velzen and Lavuga for 7th, and O'Driscoll and Alexander for 9th, I should say. This one still taking center stage. Both of these drivers, it's worth noting, started from the back on today's grid and find themselves currently both fixtures of the top 10. Just under 28 minutes left to go here in Donington Park, and we are back into action. Meanwhile, it's 0.4 of a second between Van Velzen and Lavuga at this time, so we might have to cut across both views here between the fight for 9th and the fight for 7th. Just off of turn 8 here at Coppice, we see gaining as the 315 on the 420. Looking up towards the S's, I don't believe we'll make a lunge for it there. Was going to try and get inside the 420's head, but I think we can see here from John O'Driscoll, he's no fool. He knows that he wouldn't dare the overtake down through turns 9 and 10. It's here at turn 11 where he's got to be a little bit more skeptical, looking for the inside. He's poked it there onto the rear quarter, and now up on the inside and ahead goes the 315. A great move there, albeit a little bit brazen with that little bout of door dinging between these two, but otherwise, compared to their last couple of goes, not too shabby. Great move then by Alan Alexander, now to 9th in this race. I don't think we're far from done, though, in the case of this fight. You can see the 420 already back into action there. Looking here with Gabriel Lavuga versus Cas Van Velzen up the Starkeys Bridge up towards McLean's. That 37 stuck onto the rear bumper there of Cas Van Velzen. You see running out wide from Coppice, the Porsche is looking vulnerable here. The 37 is on the prowl and sizes up a chance for 7th, looking up towards turn 9 and 10, much as we saw there for the 315 versus 420 fight. Unlikely to see an overtake at turn 9 and 10. It's here at turn 11 where action really picks back up. Could we be seeing 2 on the trot here in these fights, respectively? Not on this go around. Down through turn 11, holding his ground then. Cas Van Velzen for 7th. Into the pit lane comes Sergio Belder in a recent development there for the Holkianos number 74 Mustang into the pits in 15th. The fight for Lavuga v Van Velzen. They continue forth for their fight of 7th place. Meanwhile, in an update for the 420 v 315, we can see that distance is starting to grow exponentially between O'Driscoll and Alexander. It's worth noting, looming in the distance there is the number 14 of Jared Vermeulen. A confident race lead. We have just got a word in there from the number 420, and I think this might be emblematic as to what's gone on there. Pressure loss on the rear left. That was a warning given through the onboard diagnostics for the 420 Ferrari. There is a pressure alert out for the 420 of John O'Driscoll. What that can mean, it's anything really, but what we can see right now, it's not a sudden depressurization or a sudden puncture, but there is the risk of one on the 420. On the left rear as well, one considers that this is a load-bearing section of the car. A lot more right-hand turns here at Donington Park than there are left-hand ones. So not a particularly great amount of opportunities out there for the load to shift onto the other side of the car. And that left-hand side was already heating up over the course of this race in hotter conditions than what were preferable at the race start. And this has only confounded efforts further. He's out 2 seconds from the Bentley. Cruising smooth now for 9th place. Shifting our attention to the fight for 7th. Cas Van Velzen versus Gabriel Lavuga. 7th on the table between these two. Van Velzen holds the cards, defending from the 37. Lavuga has proven himself to be a capable talent on this grid. It was emblematic in his performance at the Nürburgring to deliver on his first rookie's win. That was only on his 2nd appearance to the grid after Silverstone, the round just before that. We do have a yellow flag out down at turn 8. It's Cody Zarfel. The 547 is in trouble. Looking to catch on board here. The 547, Cody Zarfel of Hurry Racing, now gets back up and running. You can see that is Kieran Rod. My goodness. How on earth has he made his way onto that grid today? Well, a surprise appearance, no less, from the number 61. Your eyes do not deceive you. A driver who we had not seen until around the 35th, 36th lap of the race is on today's grid. Kieran Rod. Number 87 picks up a drive through for track limits. That's for Nick Lamming. More trouble then on the way for the 87. been a series of highs and lows throughout today's race. 23 minutes left to go. Lavuga still pursues Van Velzen. The fears continue to rise for this one here. John O'Driscoll, who not long ago was given a pressure warning for the rear left on his Ferrari load-bearing section of the car. He is running dangerously close to a puncture. I think what it could be also with the pressure loss, it's likely the case that he's got a slow puncture on the Ferrari. And he's trying to wait out as long as he can, knowing he wants that top 10. And if he comes into the pits, he is going to effectively be giving that one over to Ben Cheeseman. The question is, with 22.5 minutes left in this race, how long exactly is he willing to toe the line on those flagging tyres? Looking back in for Van Velzen v Lavuga. Watching here with the number 1. 0.3 of a second, 0.2, 0.1 now behind. Practically kissing the rear bumper as we make our way through Coppice. The Lamborghini number 37 just eclipsed under the rear wing of the Porsche. The fight for 7th continues on. Down through turn 9 and 10, a very wobbly entry followed by a less than ideal exit. Leaves Cas Van Velzen open to an overtake by Gabriel Lavuga. Lavuga's on the inside. Van Velzen forced to hold the outside at Melbourne. Tries to go last of the late breakers and now setting up the move for a switchback off the exit. So close to the rear quarter on that Lamborghini. Now looking for the inside. He's going to try and leap for it here. And can he find the space for it just past the apex? Van Velzen's alongside Gabriel Lavuga. It's a drag race down to turn 1. It's worth noting, though, Lavuga has the inside line down to Redgate, so this could get dicey between these two. Trying to go late onto the brakes again goes Van Velzen, forced to the outside at Redgate. Now holding 7th, Gabriel Lavuga. Great move then from the Lamborghini. Very tactically placed there. Saw the opportunity open up from turn 10, and it was history since. Down through turn 4, now holding the lead. You can see off in the background there, that is a private, I think that is a private jet we're seeing. As a curious little fact here whilst we continue to watch the fight for 7th. Right parallel, I would say, almost on the same line, but just parallel to the Wheatcroft Straight is the main runway of East Midlands Airport. So just out past, if you were to go and stroll a little further out past here at turn 8, keep heading off in the direction of those tents in the background, you would find yourself at East Midlands Airport, which sees quite a significant number of private charter flights and air freight. Planes operate out of that circuit, well, very close to the circuit, out of that airport right next to the circuit, almost every single hour. Very busy airport. We see here side by side Van Velzen along with Gabriel Lavuga. Trying to set up another switchback here at Melbourne, but just can't find any dice of it. Now he's going to try likely the same move as he did on lap 45, and going deep on the inside there. Van Velzen gave it everything, but nothing materialized in that move. A swing and a miss for the number 1. As we continue to watch here with these two, observing any other gaps noteworthy on track at this time. It is worth noting now 3.5 seconds between Alexander and O'Driscoll, so he is nursing that rear left back in a good form, but I think the writing's on the wall there for that Pirelli. He's got 20 minutes just to serve out the rest of his time on this grid. If he pushes any harder than that, he does run the risk of a puncture. Van Velzen still has his sights set upon Gabriel Lavuga. He is looking for the opportunity of a counter-attack, and at long last, we finally see into the paddock comes Brooklyn Donkin, the longest of all stints on this grid today. Donkin now at long last in. Back on, though, to the fight here between Lamborghini and Porsche, as we do start to see a gap notably forming up for Lavuga. 37, pushing forward ahead of Van Velzen. I've just been given the reassurance by race control that yes, this is an endurance race now due to the technical malfunction with the server setup, and that endurance points will be rewarded on today's event. So if you're watching on the YouTube release for this, it will be later classified as the Donington Park Enduro, and it will be a bit of a curious story to go down in the history of what has already been an eccentric season of the NLRL Sunday League. And as Donington re-emerges to the field here, it is worth noting he finds himself only a few car lengths up the order from Gabriel Lavuga. You can see the Lamborghini just off in the background here on the run up towards turn 6 and 7. In behind them is the number 1. You see 5-star Jupiter in chat saying hopefully the racing has been good. At least it's been a mixed bag. I would definitely say it's not the exact one-to-one follow-up of Season 5 Round 7 we were expecting heading in towards Round 5 today, but it has certainly provided us with quite a fair deal of action. And one of the longest sagas to have gone on recently here was between Alan Alexander and John O'Driscoll. Started towards the back of the field today and ended up in an incident rather early on in their fight just behind one of the new drivers to the grid, that being Jake Handley. And we see here, this was way back on lap 6 of the race, so they made contact. And that ultimately is what set them on this collision course later down the line to fight amongst the top 10. And we see in its recent chapter, it's been a case where Alan Alexander has now triumphed in this case with 17 minutes to the line, as a pressure warning for the number 420 has emerged, which has kept him from being able to push any further than this. In the case of O'Driscoll, he is trying to get the car all the way to the end of this race. He does not want to come in for tyres, because that will open the doors up for Ben Cheeseman, who also, I like to note, their start from the back of the field actually started in the pit lane, unlike those two, and finds himself in 11th. Leading the rookies at the moment after a sensational qualifying has been that of Jared Vermeulen, and is looking in the next 16.5 minutes on what has been so far impeccable performance from the South African talent, looking to deliver Ferrari their first ever Sunday League win outright. Now, it's worth noting, we say outright because it's been a case where Ferrari has taken division wins before. Looking back through the season, of course, there have been division wins for Ferrari this season alone, courtesy of Elias de Vos. That's not to say they haven't won at all. Right now, at the head of the table, we are looking at Ferrari's first in progress. 5-star Jupiter in chat saying we still call to do the interviews this week. Yes, that will be available. We were unable to run it last week because of the red flag conditions, but let's say given this round, we will try and catch on with a few drivers for a post-race interview before we wrap up on this week of broadcasting. Worth noting the emergence of a brand new fight in progress, 1.7 seconds and closing, the re-emergence of Leger v Vermaak. The most recent of our fights has been here for 7th place. We now actually see here, just noting, in with the number 1, we did see not too long ago Cas van Velten move to 7th. We now see a recent update on that has him 1.9 seconds behind in 8th place. Troublesome race for him today, but he has still persevered on through. 15 minutes left to go then here in Donington Park. Jared Vermeulen leads over Tyler Vermaak. Patrick Leger in 3rd, with Carlos Diesch in 4th. Zolbeef Gardner in 5th, and Brooklyn Donkin in 6th. Gabriel Lavuga in 7th, with Cas van Velten in 8th. Alan Alexander in 9th. Rounding out the top 10, John O'Driscoll in the number 420. Number 114, Ben Cheeseman in 11th. Richard Claffey in 12th. Nick Lamming in 13th. As we just see there, getting out past him was the number 420, lapping on through. Joseph Reyes in 14th, with Sergio Belda in 15th. Cody Zarfel in 16th. Flavio Casanella in 17th. We see, having retired from this race due to concerns with his braking system, the 991 of Ian Skeen. A curious case then for Kieran Rodd, who joins the grid some 37 laps down from the lead. Joined very late into this race, but is adamant to see a finish, currently 19th, and looking to pass Ian Skeen by the end of this race. 14 minutes left to go. You catch on board here with Brooklyn Donkin, who it is worth noting is slowly but surely being approached from behind by Gabriel Lavuga. We see that now start to drop within a second. So we are looking at the emergence here of a fight for 6th place from the point of view of the number 17 BMW. Defending away the last of the top 3 rows. Meanwhile, we see up in front, Kieran Rod versus Flavio Casanella. 12.5 minutes left in this race, as the sun has now set yonder the horizon here in Donington Park. Up the Starkeys Bridge, on board at the moment with Brooklyn Donkin. The fight he has for 6th, though, emerges in from behind. You can see there just off in the distance is the Lamborghini of Gabriel Lavuga of ISR Motorsport. Up in front, you can see Casanella versus Rod, as Donkin beckons them to move on by so that he can get on through and away from the Lamborghini, nipping at his heels down through Coppice. Actually, I said the sun set yonder the horizon, but as we hit the crest of this track, we can just get one last glimpse at it, with 11 minutes coming up on left to go. Damage up in front there for Casanella, so that could play quite a vital part because he's signalling into the left, so he is likely to be coming into the pits shortly from now. Down through Goddard, you can see now right up in the rear view of the BMW is that of Gabriel Lavuga. See for Donkin, frustration starting to boil over here because that 77 hasn't budged a piece here out of this way. Up through turn 6, actually almost defending away there from the number 17 at turn 7. You can see right now, squeezed in between Donkin and Lavuga. Lavuga leaps there up past Casanella, and that has sliced down the gap between himself and Brooklyn Donkin. So we are firmly looking now at the fight for 6th place between BMW and Lamborghini. Off the exit of turn 9 and 10, this was the same area where Lavuga was able to stage overtakes in the past. We saw there in his fight not long ago with Cas van Velzen. Now he's already sized up one Euro Titans car, sets his sights on another. At 37, looking for the inside at the 17, but holding off Goddard's is Brooklyn Donkin. We see for Casanella, why on earth would he be poking his nose that far in as a lapped car? We do note as well trouble for Alexander. So we have a yellow flag out down at turn 11. Alan Alexander in recent troubles. We see here the 420 not too far off his trails, but where on earth did that happen? It was, I believe, here with this one here, Cody Zarfel. Back in a green flag conditions, but that has been quite the thorn in the side for Alan Alexander. Now back onto the wheat cross straight. We see in the background there is the Ferrari number 420 of John O'Driscoll. Looking on board here to see with Gabriel Lavuga. Now, it is worth considering. We have been monitoring that gap between Leger and Vermaat, but it still remains at a painful 1.5 to 2 second stalemate. You see here, very close, my goodness, between the two Lamborghinis of Kieran Rod being lapped out past here by Gabriel Lavuga. I'm hoping in this situation that Rod doesn't try and get his elbows out here. There is definitely a conflict of interest trying to defend for his teammate's position, despite being 38 or so laps down the order. You see off the exit of Melbourne, the 37 still biting at the heels here for the number 17's position on track. Currently still holding on to 6th place. Eight minutes left to go in Donington Park as the sun is setting now. And I think we will just narrowly avoid the bulk of nighttime racing here, but visibility starts to drop down for these drivers as they head into the last couple of laps of racing here inwards of around 6, maybe 7 laps before the end of Season 6, Round 5. And the end of the first half of the championship to go along with it. It is worth noting, we spoke about the gap, how it was around 1.5 to 2 seconds, and now we note here, just as along the same time a drive-through penalty is given out to Joseph Reyes, the gap between Patrick Leger and Tyler Vermaak has shrunk to 1.2 seconds. The evidence is rather clear then to us. The number 9 is intercepting Tyler Vermaak. Trying to go the long distance here, the number 37. Again, the 61, very close indeed. That's going to be a pesky footnote here on his fight. The number 37, knowing any gap he forfeits is one that number 61 will try to find, but I don't think it particularly matters too greatly to this one. Gabriel Lavuga found the eye of a needle and went for it. Now up and ahead, front to rear quarter with Brooklyn Donkin, who's going for the inside down at red gate for some counter-attack for 6th place. They bump doors and out wide goes Lavuga. He'll not be pleased in the slightest. In the background, we can see here, being lapped out past by Jared Vermeulen, is Cas van Velzen in 8th place. It's worth noting, if things get any more sour between Donkin and Lavuga, Van Velzen may be among the first to know about it. We see here for Patrick Leger is now within a second of Tyler Vermaak. This could be the reignition of a fight that has stood stale for the last couple of laps here. Even the greater majority of this race saw little action after they split apart for the first time, but going to catch on board. We're back in for the fight of second. Through to Coppice, and the Ford smells blood in the water. The sun now in its entirety yonder the horizon. We are entering nighttime conditions just in the closing 5 minutes in Donington Park. Their day started off like this, fighting with each other, so close yet so far away. Could it be how it ends? Leger adamant to regain that second place, of which he held on the starting grid but was snatched away from after Vermaak's lunge for the inside. A brilliant start, all things considered, for the number 8 on their first run down through Redgate on this round. You've got to appreciate the commitment here from the number 9. He has not backed down. He's not given up once in his pursuit of that second place spot, and finds himself 2 tenths faster on the last lap alone. So are we getting close to an all-out brawl for second? The data certainly points toward it, but theory will only take you so far. Meanwhile, observing the Lavuga v Donkin fight to find 1.5 seconds currently the margin, and stuck in between them is the number 61. Thorn in the side on this grid at the moment today, after his late entry in, fashionably late in the case of the number 61, one of the original back row bandits, the number 61 of Kieran Rodd, joins onto the grid here. Looking in to see Leger v Vermaak, what we have been waiting to see a follow-up from all race long today. The way it looks at the moment, we've got about 3 more laps of racing left to play for on this grid today. Leger still sizing up Vermaak at this time. 1.1, 1.2 seconds. I think Vermaak can now start to sense the pressure from behind. And we've just got another word. Speaking of pressure, we noted earlier in the race, given a report in from the number 420 of John O'Driscoll, was a pressure warning on the rear left, where he was losing significant wads of tyre pressure on his rear left. Now we've just got information forward from him that he's now losing it on the rear right. So that whole rear axle is going dead on him in the last 3 minutes. It's a sketchy thing to see. He's just going to have to try and limp this one to the line for a top 10. and live to fight another day with that 315. Van Velzen, his sights now look to be set on Gabriel Lavuga, who is still, as we stand right now, trying to get out past the number 17 of Brooklyn Donkin, namely trying to get out past here the 61. It's contact as Kieran Rodd makes contact with Gabriel Lavuga. What on earth is he doing? He's several laps down and he's barging that 37, and you could really view this as somewhat of a conflict of interest, especially there with the number 1 getting up on through. Are we seeing from Euro Titans a dark new chapter? Cronyism on the Sunday League grid. Let's not jump to conclusions too soon, but it's not looking great if you're Kieran Rodd at this time. 114 of Ben Schiessman met with dismay after what has been a brilliant drive, and he started from the pit lane to be in 11th. We'll see that fall by the wayside as he picks up a drive-through penalty for track limits. The 93 follows in that line of queries, though, as now Richard Claffey picks up a drive-through also on the opposite end of the track. Zolt Beefgartner now looks to fight with Carlos Deesh, and this was a fight that's really cropped up out the blue. As Leger continues his efforts to fight with Tyler Vermaak as we creep ever closer to the last lap of racing from Jared Vermeulen's point of view, we are now observing 2 fights on the the top 5. 1 fight on the podium, I should say, and 1 among the top 5 to make 2 fights in total, side by side, between the Lexus and the Audi. Zolt Beefgartner has his sights set on 4th place, but he's got to go toe-to-toe with Carlos Deesh, last season's Rookies champion. The 54 and the 599 rocket down through Hollywood into the Craner curves, and looking for the inside there on the start of the Craner curves is the 599. But getting the better run on the brakes in towards the old hairpin as the 54. Better exit comes from the 599, so they find themselves in equilibrium. Zolt Beefgartner is not letting go of the chances for 4th, but he has to relinquish there at turn 7. Otherwise, he would have ended up with a very similar incident to what we saw far earlier in the race between the 315 and the 420. As you heard just a moment ago, we are on the last lap of racing here in Donington Park. And the last visit we ever made to Donington Park in Season 5, Round 7, gave us a series of firsts, because it was the first time in 3 seasons, I should say, where Lexus took a win. That was at the hand of Michael Harris, who took a Rookies 1-2 alongside Ellie Pocket for McLaren. But for this one here, Jared Vermeulen stands at the precipice of making Sunday League history in just a few more corners' time. As they round in towards their last lap of competition at Donington, the 599 sets its sights on the 54. Running out wide goes Carlos Deesh, so Zolt Beefgartner has the running start into that last lap. Meanwhile, the 114 in trouble down before Melbourne, as we watch on here with Jared Vermeulen. Looking back through the history of the Sunday League, McLaren, BMW, Aston Martin, Lexus, Ford, AMG, Porsche and Bentley have all taken wins in the 63 races long since past. But on race number 64, a 9th manufacturer joins the ring as Jared Vermeulen takes Ferrari's first ever victory in the Sunday League history here. What a round it has been for Jared Vermeulen, his first ever Sunday League win. And following on a line of Donington bliss, we find ourselves with another outright Rookies victory and Ferrari's first ever. Tyler Vermaak makes 2nd, Patrick Leger in a close 3rd, Zolt Beefgartner holds the cards on 4th, and you can see that Carlos Deesh is fading significantly here on this lap. The 54 did not have the start he wanted onto lap 62. Zolt Beefgartner looks to take 4th. We see as well, further down the line was a close finish there for Donkin and Van Velzen, as well as Lavuga. Lavuga to 8th, Van Velzen to 7th, Donkin to 6th. Looking here for Zolt Beefgartner down towards the line. He is looking at 4th place, and triumphantly so for Lexus and TSRC Esports. Beefgartner has been a proper trooper on this grid today. Down to the line to see the top 5. In the number 599, Carlos Deesh. Down to the line for Audi. In the number 54, 5th place at the end of this round today. What a performance it has been for Jared Vermeulen. We'll hope to get a word in with him, but we can't guarantee that at this time. Ferrari's first ever Sunday League victory. 64 races it took for them to become the 9th manufacturer to do so. The most recent of which was Bentley at Season 5, Round 10, courtesy of Hayden Prodger in his Alton Park performance. Ferrari now have a victory to call their own, and it's this one here. The rookie sensation to Season 6, Jared Vermeulen, on what I believe is his second appearance to this grid, marks his first victory in the Sunday League. Final results then coming on through. Jared Vermeulen wins not only overall, but in the rookies as well. For a rookie's outright victory, Tyler Vermaak takes second place, Patrick Leger in third, Zolt Beefgartner in fourth, and Carlos Diesch in fifth, Donkin sixth, Kats van Velzen in seventh, Lavuga in eighth, Alexander Knight and O'Driscoll rounds out the top 10. Cheeseman in 11th, with Claffey in 12th, Lamming in 13th, Reyes in 14th, Belder in 15th, Zarfel in 16th, Casanella in 17th, and Rott in 18th. Multiple DNS then from Taylor, Handley, Skeen, Dicker, Galaxy, and a DNS from Ian McGowan. Well, what a round that's come to be here on the NLRL Sunday League. In terms of your division podiums for the rookies, of course, Vermeulen still wins. Leger second, Lavuga on the podium for the rookies. Leger, of course, also holding the fastest lap. At the end of the endurance race, let's see if we can go and catch on board with some of the drivers. We'll have a little glance in to see if there are any available to speak with at this time. So I believe currently in the waiting room, we have the opportunity to speak with Patrick Leger on what was a fantastic fight between himself and Tyler Vermaak throughout this race. We also have that of Ethan Oliver, otherwise 5-star Jupiter, one of the representatives of the race control group here on NLRL. So we'll try and get a word out of Leger first and then have a word in with Oliver. Just bear with us one moment. So the first of our interviews for today, Patrick Leger, how are you feeling then after that P3 finish, P2 in division?
I felt good. I really felt good. I mean, I didn't have any expectation to be fighting for front row. I felt like in this league there are a couple of guys who are faster than me, but like this time, especially with the Ford Mustang, I've been experienced with that car. I really felt like I hit the sweet spot with the setup because I felt like I could just go attack, and then attack with that car, and I'd be really buzzing at the moment.
It's been a great race for you, and it was quite eventful seeing the fight between you and Vermaak. You two were basically the same coin, two sides of the same coin, I should say. So close to each other on pace. I think at one point it come down to only a couple hundredths in terms of difference on average lap time. It was such a close race between you two. So what are the expectations, would you say, coming up into the second half of the championship into Barcelona next week?
It depending if I can make it or not, because I'm a reserve. But like if I can make it, Barcelona, I like the track. Besides the last sector, I'm really struggling with that. So if I can get a top 5 in that race, I'd be pleased.
Well, anyway, it's been a fantastic result for you today. Took the podium overall and also on the rookies podium as well. So you'll be seeing yourself further up through the rookies championship order. It's going to be an exciting run into the second half of the championship, and it's good to have you back on board and hope to see you next week. But if not possible, then we'll see you whenever we see you next. But otherwise, a great result today, Patrick.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a good one.
And you, take care. So that was Patrick Leger, P3 at the end of today. A great fight between himself and Tyler Vermaak. Next on, in our waiting room at the moment, so we will drag him in a moment's time, will be Ethan Oliver, one of the race control representatives at NLRL. And our second and last interview of today then, Ethan Oliver from Race Control. Ethan, what happened with today's event?
I set up the server with the right race length, but I didn't shorten the practice, because what I usually do if I'm not there for the reset is I set it to the long practice, save it, restart the server, and then I update it to the short practice, then just save it but not restart. So when the restart comes, it restarts onto the shorter practice. And I forgot to do that. So when I was at work, I realized, and I ran into the break room and got my phone, and I opened up the G-Portal website. But for some reason, because I just used like the autofill result from when the last time I was on there, it put me onto the file for the event length, but it had already filled it in with the previous week's event length. I didn't notice that because I just saw the practice was 24 hours. So I shortened the practice down, saved it, and then put my phone down and went back to work because I wasn't supposed to be on it. Not realizing that I'd accidentally saved the file with a 90-minute race instead of, the standard race. So that's my bad. But we'll give out the points for an endurance, so no one's really lost points per se.
Yeah, it was a bit of a confusing one because
half an hour, which is a bit.
Because we were present as well when you had to reconstruct the results. So obviously there's been a lot of stuff to process in a very short amount of time, trying to get everything back up and running after the Nürburgring. But I would say even for what's happened today, it's not really the end of the world. I mean, it can't be much worse than the full length formation lap from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I had to tab through that to try and find like some semblance of results from the recording. I'm so sorry. It was like almost half the race length was just formation lap.
Well, look, you're doing what you can, so I don't think the drivers can be too harsh about that. It's a near enough one-man operation for the actual event infrastructure. I know Race Control is a larger group for like incident deciding. I know there's a few more people involved than that, but as far as like server-side stuff go, it is just you at the moment. So you can't really be too mad at that. If it's one guy juggling multiple assets here, that's not easy to do. So fair play. I mean, we're not infallible. We are human at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll try and do better. It shouldn't happen again. I'm not going to say it won't, because then it will. It shouldn't happen again.
Yeah, because that's what's it, Sod's Law, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's overconfidence in that.
Something like that, yeah. Well, next round coming up will be Barcelona. That'll be the re-emergence of the sprint rounds. That'll be, I believe, it's the triple sprints, isn't it, for this season? Yeah. We saw back in Indianapolis. So yeah, back in the same conditions as Indy.
Hopefully they don't kill each other. They've got 3 tries not to kill each other on the start, so.
Yeah, well, we saw in Indianapolis that, I think you might need a 4th times the charm here to not end up with major incidents. But it's going to be
like 4 15-minute races now.
By season 7, it'll be like 10 5-minute races or something like that. We'll figure it out. Yeah. Well, anyway, pleasure speaking with you. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we'll let you crack on.
See ya.
Yep. That was Ethan Oliver from Race Control. Obviously, it was a bit of a confusing round today, but a lot of stuff's had to be juggled to get this production back underway. Fortunately so, still gave us a great result at the end of today's event. So that being said, and there's no more drivers waiting to be interviewed for today, that will conclude our broadcast here on TRTN. Now, to remind you of what's coming up into the next week here as we head in past the 22nd on Monday tomorrow, we head in towards Season 11, Round 1 of the Fats GT GT3 series. We covered the greater part of Season 10, and it was a fantastic run of things back in that season. We picked things back up for Season 11, Round 1. Tuesday sees the TRC Sprint Cup EU Season 6, Round 3. Wednesday morning at 1 a.m. BST, we'll be seeing the Competizione Performance League GT4 Pro-Am Cup America Series Season 4, Round 3. And we also see later on in the evening the first round of the midweek series by Orange Line Racing X VSR, taking the place of VSR Season 11. That starts on Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock. Friday, we see in the evening time the Porsche Super Cup by OLR X VSR pick back up into its second round. We saw its first round 2 weeks ago in the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo E. Dino Ferrari. On Saturday, round 2 of the Ginetta Summer Challenge by HCCL, as well as Season 2, Round 2 of the Continental Racing League. On Sunday, NLRL Sunday League Season 6, Round 6, as we head to Barcelona, the home of the former Spanish Grand Prix. That's all from us here on TRTN. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care and good night.